It's called smut. Give me smut and nothing but a dirty novel I can't shut if it's uncut and unsut.
That's your hate list, though.
It is my hate list.
You love reverse harems.
I do love a reverse harem, but you want to know what I don't like in a reverse harem?
Yes.
Magic. I can't.
You want a grounded reverse harem?
You want Den of Vipers? You want?
No, I don't want that either.
You want some fucked up shit?
Look, I want communication to be understood that, like,
That's not a romance
it's
novel,
not.
my friend.
It's
That's
absolutely
not a
not.
You want a
romance
polycule is what you want.
I want
Yes.
something lovely,
I
and
don't
that's
want,
not what you're
look,
gonna get.
How silly goofy is it that, like, in my magical world, 5 men magically are made perfectly to be able to handle this.
I think that's
in
great.
a mature
And you know
way.
what? I need a gynecologist on speed dial if that's the case. You know.
Yeah. I mean, the fact is that, like, anytime you read these, you're just like, ah, yes, fantasy.
Yes, that's fair. That's fair.
There's no part of you that's like, I want to be lost in a little bit of realism.
Yeah.
But if the realism is, like, the fact that it was a good schlonging, like, I don't think that
A good schlonging.
You're welcome.
A good
Quote
hard
number
schlong.
1, a good hard schlong. Can that be the name of this episode?
I think it should be.
Instead of Soulmates Take 2.
No, it
technically
should
it's first. It's
Soulmates
Soulmates
Take
Take
Two.
1 because we did Fated Mates. So
a
it's
good
the
hard
same.
schlong.
A good hard. Yes.
Comma.
Colon.
A good hard schlong.
Also, I know this is completely changing topics, but I do have a podcast thought.
Okay.
And it came up. I've been at 2 weddings in 2 weekends. Lovely time. I'm a little tired. And I don't know if we've talked about this on a separate episode, but after one of the first weddings, I went to a lake house with some of my friends, and it was 3 couples, a baby, and me. Classic sitcom.
Yeah.
And one of my friends, I cannot remember which one it was, but they were talking about something that their husband was doing at the time. And they're like, yeah, it's just my competency kink. And I went, what did you just say?
Oh, yeah.
And she goes, competency kink. I go, I don't think I've ever like put that name to it though. Like I just don't think I've ever like heard. I was like blown away. I wrote it down because I was like, competency kink, that's what it is.
That's a very real thing.
And yes, and I was like, I have these. I just never had the name for it, which sounds so silly.
Because I think some of it is very silly. Not that the idea of competency kink is silly. It's just the fact that we
have to have a name for it.
Right.
It's like, I would love it if you would just, notice that something is off and fix it.
Well, it's more the like what they do well. And I was like, what is everyone's competency kink? That's what and it's hard for me to say. Competency
kink. So as in, what is a thing where if I see my partner doing it well, then
it's like,
yes.
ooh, baby.
So like one of the, I think I know who it was, but one of them was fixing something. And she was like, God, he's so good at like fixing things. It's just like my competency kink. And I was like, oh my God, I guess I have that too.
Jake makes me laugh. And like, it's hard to actually do because like most of the time I am so like, I make myself laugh. Yeah. I don't need you to make me laugh. I'm constantly laughing.
I'm hilarious.
The silly little goofy things that I do.
Yeah.
I understand that I'm here for your entertainment. I get it. Mm-hmm. But like when Jake makes me laugh, I sit there and I'm like, oh yeah, that's it. That's definitely why.
He instantly becomes more attractive in that moment.
100%.
Yeah.
I remember that there was one time the first time actually we ever went on like kind of a walking date, where you guys talk. I was walking with him and I was like, yeah, in Chicago, you got to watch out for ROUSs. Expecting him to then have to say, what is
an ROUS?
Yes, which is
and he
unusual size.
Immediately goes for the quote and then he looks at me and goes, what? I was like, oh my God, that was funny. And it didn't come from...
Yeah.
You don't have to be the funniest person in the room.
I don't. I don't even have to be the smartest person in the room.
Yeah.
Jake definitely does not need that from me.
I guess I was thinking more like physical, like activities maybe, or hobbies.
Keenan makes me breakfast a lot.
Yeah,
or lunch,
like cooking.
or
Good at cooking.
because I work from home and he goes to school right now, and so like he's home while I'm working during the day on Mondays and Fridays, and he makes it a point to make me breakfast and lunch and also handle dinner or just like think of what we're doing for dinner.
Yeah.
And that's something that like
That gives you the flutters.
it does. Well, and it's also just he's a good cook, which is great because I'm very judgmental and and I'm also a good cook. And so if I had to be pretending to like someone else's cooking, it would not work very well.
You would
and then
not
also,
live long in my household.
and then it's just it's just very like considerate. It's just one of those,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I was thinking about you, and it's not cool that you're working all day and I'm just here, so I should handle this aspect of our lives. And I'm like, thank you so much. I was in meetings all day, and it's great. And then also the laughing thing, like he's really good at catching me by surprise and making me laugh when I'm not expecting to.
Yes.
And those moments are very, very attractive to me.
Yeah.
I will say the older I get, the more I see Jake with children, and he is such a good uncle. And he's not like, it's like, oh, I can't wait to see what he's like as a father.
Yeah.
It is, oh, he is dedicated to being a good uncle.
Yeah.
He is dedicated to being a good male figure in this child's life and not.
And that's hot.
Yeah.
I get that.
It's definitely not, it's not fathering. It's
Yeah.
not parenting in any sort of way.
I'm not someone who wants kids, but see, I've seen my exes with children before, and I was like, that's hot. Like, you know, I was like, I feel like, because I was trying to think of this, and I was like, yes, I think being a good cook is hot, but my last partner made me something. He made me my book house.
Yeah.
For my TBR thing, and I was like, this is so attractive that you took the time to to physically build something. And I was like, that's so hot. But then if we're talking about like making someone laugh, though, I remember the last couple of like more serious relationships, it was like, can they speak Emily is what I always said. And it's like they will quote a movie to me or like a specific something. So like my last partner had said something about I had mentioned a movie that not a lot of people know called Surf Ninjas. It's one of my favorite movies.
Keenan loves that movie.
With my brother. I love that. We quote that. The Knives of Kwansu. Someone go find it. Go watch it. It's amazing. And I had like turned to him and I said something. I was like, oh yeah, well, like I could show you Surf Ninjas. He goes, oh my God. And he like said that he knew it and he like quoted something. And I was like, what'd you just say? I was like, is it meant to be? It was not. But in the moment it was.
In the moment it was.
But like, oh, so that was... I'm Emily Virgin.
And I'm Jess.
I don't know why I said my last name. And we're... The wine just got to me.
We're
Femmes Reading Filth.
Wow, that was a really on, you guys. I'm really proud of you.
Oh my
I'm in
God.
such a good mood right now.
Good. We
Because-
should record after you go to therapy more often.
We should. You know why I'm in a good mood? Because this is over. Like, this episode is now done and I don't have to read.
Oh, Andrea, we worked on this.
This
I'm
is
so proud of you
This is
guys.
going down in history as the most books read for an episode.
Really? How many did you get to?
6.
Damn.
I did not finish one of them though.
Yeah.
That's why I went to a third.
Yeah.
But
I went through 4.
yeah.
My one that I thought was the one, I got through the to the end, wrote notes the whole time.
Yep, I did that too.
No smut in it.
That happened in the first book.
Yes.
And I think you should read it because there's 6. So I before we even go into research, I read Broken Bonds.
Oh,
Have you read that?
yes, all of them.
Okay, I got to book 4 and I was like, no smut happens till 2. I have to keep going. Then I was like, this is all the same shit. So I stopped at book 4. Then I continued reading 5 other books for this episode because I'm sick. But I was like, this is perfect for Andrea. It's reverse harem. It's soulmates. It's this. And I was like, God damn it. It's too, I can't do 2 books in one episode. So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
I
were
just-
texting each
I'm-
other like for the
Yeah.
last couple of days. I threw out mine on Sunday, right around when you texted asking if we could move the recording
A day
up a day
earlier.
earlier.
Yeah,
sorry.
I was
No.
starting my 31 chapter fanfic that I was like,
Yeah.
that I am going to tell you about. But I was like, oh my God, I have a day. I have a day to do this.
It's currently Tuesday. We're recording on Tuesday. Last Monday night, I started the book that I will be talking about.
Yeah.
I have read it before, which helped.
Good.
I
But-
do apologize. I thank you.
It's not your fault
No,
at all. We did this to
we have
ourselves.
standards that we hold ourselves to, and we also put on more. Like I had a lot more rules. Like I couldn't do werewolves. I didn't want to
Yeah.
do like vampires. I didn't want to do like fated mates because we've done fated mates because
Yep.
we're doing soulmates, and there is a difference in
Yeah.
my opinion.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I excluded creatures of any kind. I tried to exclude magic. A little magic has slipped in, but I tried to like make it realistic. And that was why I really wanted the one. So the original one that I read, which I think you would have really liked, but it didn't have any smut in it. was a Sherlock Holmes fanfic where Detective Lestrade, where it's a soulmate Mark fic. Have you ever read any of those?
No.
Oh, okay.
You've explained this, I think, in season 1, but can you do it again?
Yeah. So this is my favorite. This is how I read Soulmates, and I have a version of that in my story, but it's not as traditional to what I usually read. But when I do Soulmates, I usually do soulmate identifying marks, which is usually the lore is something like when you turn 18 or when you're born, you'll have like on your wrist
like a birthmark,
like a birthmark that matches your soulmate's, or the first thing that your soulmate will ever say to you is like tattooed somewhere on your body, and so you know that when you meet your soulmate, they're going to say something, and that always causes a lot of. So like in this Sherlock one, Detective Lestrade was just Lestrade, period, and it was tiny. It was on his little toe on his left foot, and so he never noticed that it happened, so he didn't know who his soulmate was.
Oh, okay.
And so the story was like a murder mystery, and at the same time he was trying to figure out who his soulmate was and who had the corresponding marks. And it was Mycroft Holmes who, when Lestrade first met him, like insults him, and Mycroft has the first words that Lestrade ever said to him in giant letters across his entire chest and stomach, and so has been hiding this secret because he realized it right away, but then Lestrade never said anything. And so he was like, well, I guess he's not interested in me, and he works with my brother, so I'm just gonna not say anything.
I'm gonna pine from afar.
Yeah, but I love soulmate identifying marks is definitely how I usually read Soulmates, because I like the extra, I like the lore of it and like the extra kind of element of it, because it's not, oh, we're soulmates, we're meant to be together. It's like, no, like I have this weird tattoo that I got when I turned 18, and it becomes more of like a mystery thing.
That's fun.
What research did you do for Soulmates?
Well, before I go into that, can I ask, like, what do you expect from this episode? Like, you picked it as a trope that you didn't like, and I believe you were like, pick something that would make me like Soulmates.
Yeah.
Which we might not have done because, again, we've gone through so many books at this point. But what are you expecting from this episode?
I'm expecting that we find like a lot of insta love, a lot of love at first sight, maybe a little bit of resentment at first, but definitely acknowledgement that no matter what this person is or has done, immediate love. Kind of that's the way I have always seen Soulmates portrayed, where it's like, well, you were made for me, so I don't see any flaws.
Yeah.
It's like,
interesting.
in my opinion, the reason that I find Soulmates so kind of mind-numbing when it comes to reading is that you see it a lot, and it becomes the catalyst for every bad, wrong thing that the other character has done to be absolutely forgivable.
Because in the end, they'll be together.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's like
there are no stakes.
it's like the very beginning of the title telling you what the at the end they both die. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, you're both sobbing at the end of that book, like, and then they both died. It's like, oh well, but they said the word soulmate or fated or any of those things, and you're like, but they're gonna wind up together.
Yeah.
Like there's
And
no
is that
tears
okay?
there.
Yeah.
There's no tears there. There's no animosity. There's no strife.
Yeah, and you said fated, and I feel somebody asked us within the past 2 weeks, they were like, what are you doing for the next one? We said Soulmates. They were like, didn't you do that? And I don't know if this isn't my actual research. I'll get into that in a second. But I was like, well, fated mates to me implies fate had a hand in it. Like a higher being, a higher power, the fates, if you will, like the heavens, cast that on you. Soulmates is like your own thing.
Yeah, you're
Soulmates
answering
is like
call.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
answering the call of something within you. And I said it, and I was like, that was really smart. So I wanted to like say that.
Document it.
I want to document it. But Webster's dictionary defines soulmate as a person with whom someone feels a deep, natural connection based on mutual understanding, acceptance, and compatibility, a deep feeling or a natural affinity. And then I kind of went further in, and I was reading this whole thing about how there are 4 types of soulmates, which I thought was really cool. There's best friends, which is we all know what a best friend is. A karmic soulmate, which is somebody that will come into your life to teach you something or provide a need.
That's what I was talking about last episode, yeah.
A life partner, which is like a romantic soulmate. And then a twin flame, which is what you also were talking about, which is a relationship in which each person sees a part of themselves in the other.
Yeah.
And that can be platonic or love or etc. So I just like that there, because we had talked about this in the last episode about, I don't know if I've cut it out by now, but there are different types of soulmates, and it's like nice to know that like your friends can be your soulmates, and it's not just something romantic that you're going to be constantly looking for.
Yeah, but I don't know that I've ever read a smut fic with platonic soulmates. Although I would be interested to read one of like...
Where does the smut come from then?
Well, where like the main plot is still the smutty soulmates, but maybe there's a best friend or something that they happen to be soulmates, but not in a romantic way. Yeah, and I think you can learn a lot about a character by also describing their friends or like describing their relationships early on and how they sit in them and everything like that. That's what I tend to read books for. Is I'm not as interested in the character's inner life as I am in the dialogue and the people and the
world,
conversation. Conversation with each other and that sort of dynamic.
I don't want to hear you think about what his butt looks like for the third time. I want to hear what your friend is saying about his butt. Like,
Yeah,
exactly. And
absolutely.
I feel like that way about in real life with people too. I'm like, I can tell someone by their friends and how they interact with their friends and their world. Yeah.
When you get that dead space during a date, and you're like, the guy has asked you 0 questions and you're about to ask your 50th to him. One of mine is, tell me about your best friend. And they will just monologue for like 20 minutes.
That's great.
Wax poetic every time.
Yeah, that's a really good question.
We've gone off on a tangent. So soulmates, we did the research. Check.
Yep.
Who's going first this week?
I went first last time, right? So you should probably go first.
So. Okay, that makes sense.
Tell me a story, Emily.
Oh boy, settle in. Okay, so I want to say read Broken Bonds. I started reading something called Resilience of the Crown, and I hated both of them, but those were fairies. I read a third thing about fairies that was just pure porn, and I thought I could do better. The fourth thing I read was A Cursed Kiss, which I fucking loved. I was like, this is full on Ballad of Never After.
Yes.
Like, I loved it. It is a series. I'm going to keep reading it. So much fun lore, but it was too much to discuss. The fifth one was about an angel, and I was like, oh, fuck this book. And then my wonderful friend Emma last night said, why don't you do this one? And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to do this one. So I'm gonna introduce this a little differently.
Great.
I don't know if you have read it, and if you have, I'm happy to take you on this ride again. I think you might have, but I don't know.
When you said Broken Bonds, I was like, oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, no, so not that. But I am mad about Broken Bonds.
Let me know when you finish it. We'll talk.
I don't know if I can. I would check back at the end of the season. Did I finish the series?
Okay.
Imagine this. It's a Tuesday night. You get back from your terrible bank teller job. You microwave a lean cuisine. You fall asleep on the couch. You know, you're like, oh, fuck, I have to go to work tomorrow. I go to the bed. I fall asleep, and I start having weird stress dreams. And in all of these dreams, there's a light. And then you realize, am I actually awake? Is that light right there? Am I not in my bed? Are there little green men surrounding me? Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be talking about Ice Planet Barbarians today.
I still have not read this. I'm so excited.
I'm so sorry for you.
I'm so excited.
Andrea, have you read Ice Planet Barbarians? So you understand the kind of soulmate that's about to happen.
All of them. I've read all of them.
You have not. I have read 9 out of the 22.
I'm so excited.
And they're all the same book, pretty much. Ice Planet Barbarians is by Ruby Dixon. It is 188 pages, hence why I was like, I could read this in a night.
Yeah.
It came out April 3rd, 2015. Did not realize.
Wow.
Yeah. And because it got big within the last couple of years, really.
Yeah.
It is dual POV. Trigger warnings for sexual assault, kidnapping, and dubious consent. Mm-hmm. The sexual assault is not really necessary for the plot, so I am going to kind of glaze over it.
Great.
Braze over it, whatever.
Yeah.
Glaze.
Either or.
Glaze donut over it.
Yeah.
All of that, what I just described, happened to Georgie. our main Georgie Carruthers, which I think is one of the best names.
Carruthers is a wonderful last
Georgie
name.
Carruthers from Florida. She's waken up by aliens shining a light in her eyes. She's not home anymore, and she screams and then is drugged and falls back asleep. She wakes up in what looks like a cargo bay. Being drugged, she's trying to come out of the stupor when another girl, Liz, kind of introduces herself, and she starts looking around and sees a bunch of other women that are kind of like asleep against the wall. Liz is our filler-inner. She tells us they've all been abducted. They're all around 22 years old, have no family or no health issues, and they're in an alien spaceship.
Right.
The only person that can understand the aliens is another girl, Kira, who has had a translator stapled to her ear.
Wow. Okay.
There are two types of aliens on this ship. There's the big orange ones and the small green ones. The big orange ones are the like security, and the small green ones are like the head honchos. What they've figured out is that they are going to be they're smugglers. These girls are going to be sold to other aliens.
Got it.
And
sex trafficking. Got it.
Sex trafficking.
Yep.
They have to be quiet because if not, the orange aliens will assault you. That's all we're going to say about that.
Great.
So they start devising a plan to kill the big aliens, because then once they do that, they can get the guns, and then they can get the green aliens, and then maybe they can go home. As they start to enact this plan, a red flashing light appears, and Kira says it sounds like, because she can hear what they're saying over the translator, that they're going to crash. All of a sudden, they crash. Georgie wakes up, and they have crashed on an ice planet.
What?
Two of the girls are dead. They have died in the crash. The rest, they take stock of the injuries. Someone has a broken wrist. Someone has a broken leg, and they kind of see who's the healthiest. It happens to be Georgie. And
Surprise.
Yes, and also in this crash, in the scuffle, they did kill one of the big orange aliens. So Georgie takes the alien's clothes. She takes the gun and traverses out into the ice planet.
Excellent.
When the girls, down in the ship go, "What do you see?" And she goes, "Have you ever seen Star Wars?" They're like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Yeah, like Ice Planet Hoth, pretty much." And so that will tell our nerdy viewers.
I bought my sister a shirt that said that, having never read Ice Planet Barbarians, but knowing how much she
That said Ice Planet Hoth?
Yes.
Love that. Love that. Am I being faithful so far to this?
Oh my God, it's amazing.
Yeah.
You have glossed over nothing.
Thank you. So, let's see. Georgie leaves the ship. She sees nothing but snow, 2 suns, and 1 gigantic moon, aka Ice Planet Hoth. She walks for a while. It's like a long ways, and she starts seeing what looks like trees. She goes to it. She hears water. She finds the water, so that must mean there's something warmer on this ice planet because water is flowing freely. She goes down into the river to kind of take a sip, and then sees a big face staring at her, and a giant alien fish almost eats her. While running away from the said giant alien fish, she gets caught in a snare and is now hanging upside down from the trees. We're hearing her internal monologue of like, well, fuck, like, I was the worst one to go help these girls. Oh my God, let's just hope that I don't get eaten before I can go back. Right. And then she blacks out because she's hanging upside down.
She has passed out a lot.
Well,
I feel sad
She
for her.
was just in a huge crash.
Yes. But her poor brain.
There's been
my
so
God.
many things.
Yes.
There has been so many things. Now we are in the mind of Vektal. Vektal, I'd say. Vektal. Vektal. Vektal sees a being struggling in his snare and is confused. His kui, Khui, which is the inward being that recognizes a mate,
Got it.
starts to vibrate and sing at the sight of this new creature.
Andrea is losing it.
He going up to her, he cuts her down and kind of hauls her over his shoulder and takes her to a nearby hunting cave because he is out on a hunt right now. The tribal cave is like a day's trek away, so they're pretty far out. They have all these hunting caves around for all the different hunters,
obviously,
with some meat supplies and furs and wood for fires.
Right.
Keep going.
And he's like, wow, she looks hurt. He starts to undress her because he doesn't understand what this being is, to see if there's any like thing he can fix, and realizes she doesn't look like him at all. Like, what is this? And he doesn't hear anything, and she seems pale and frail and small, and goes, she must not have a cooey. Which is such a funny thing to say. We hear that not having a cooey means you're like a child, so you must be cared for as such. You need to be kept warm. You need to be cared for. So he immediately, with this pretty much naked girl, kind of like throws a fur over her and was like, gotta make a fire.
Is this book hot to women because of competency kink?
Listen, I don't. No, you know what? I want you to decide.
As part of it?
I want you to
As part of
decide
it?
after. I don't think so. I think it's more caretaker. I think it's more strong lumberjack caretaker-esque.
Fair. I am getting that too.
Yeah.
It's a lot of primal play.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is primal. That's the word. That's
Okay.
thank you.
Got it.
It is yeah. So when I first read it, I was like, this is so dumb. Why do I like this so much? It makes me angry and I like it.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, let's all suspend disbelief.
No,
well.
I know.
just want
I'm
to
just
put that out
asking
there.
because I'm the one that hasn't read it.
No.
So I'm checking in.
But for what's about to come, I just want you to be like,
No.
this is fun.
It's been 2 years since I've read this. I can't tell you how excited I am. It's like reliving.
Your cooey has been activated.
Oh my
Her
God.
cooey is purring. And so he starts making a fire. So his cooey keeps vibrating, and he knows that, quote, she is mine. And again, he has her undressed, and he's kind of like, she looks weird. Why is there like fur downstairs? And what's going on? And her smell is so enticing.
Right.
That he leans in and starts to eat her out.
Right.
Yeah. Which leads to number one. This is how we say hello on the ice planet Hoth. Georgie wakes up to an alien eating her out.
Georgie, I'm so sorry, girl.
This is where CNC comes into play.
Yes.
I mean,
it is. This is the dubious consent. When you're reading it, you're like, oh, and then you go, oh, okay, it's fine.
She's okay with it.
It's okay.
You immediately get the internal monologue.
It changes to her POV.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Yeah.
So for our listeners out there, that's what's happening. Georgie wakes up to an alien eating her out. I'm so happy I get to read this. She sees horns. She sees bluish gray skin with a mane of black hair, not unlike a lion's mane. Mm-hmm. Heavy brows. Which honestly,
Emily loves the brow.
I knew you were gonna fucking say that. I knew you were gonna say that, you bitch. Okay, for the listeners, years and years ago, I dated a man with a strong brow. I then dated another man with a strong brow. And our dumb friend Taylor, I believe, said, "You like a caveman looking man."
She likes a strong brow.
I don't always.
It just so happens that they are attracted to me.
The cavemen like me.
Yeah,
there are
fine.
ridges. There are ridges on the nose. There are ridges in certain places, but mostly he looks somewhat human. And the biggest thing is that he has bright, glowing blue eyes. And she at first is like scared, and she is like, oh my God, are you gonna kill me? She kind of pushes him away. He says something in another language and is like basically making gestures of, you're okay, you're safe, goes back to licking her pussy. And she's like, okay, I'm clearly not in danger. He's really good at this.
Right.
And I can feel he has ridges as well on his tongue. So the textured tongue really comes into play. This scene happens, she has an orgasm, and it's followed by one of my favorite quotes I've ever read. Okay, so I just did that. I just had an orgasm from an alien. I have no idea how I'm going to explain this to Liz back on the ship.
Oh yeah, she's still like on a scouting mission.
She's
Technically.
still- yeah.
Sometimes you got to keep things to yourself.
Yep.
She gotta tell Liz. Liz is badass. Liz is like best friend material. She's great. We've heard more. Liz is like from Oklahoma. She was making light of the fact that they were all kidnapped on a ship. Good best friend
Great.
energy there.
Excellent.
So from this point on, it's going to keep switching back and forth in these POVs. Hence why I know all of this information, and they do figure it out from each other, which
Cool.
we'll get to later. He's like, okay, so she must feel the need to mate too, because she clearly enjoyed that.
She stayed.
And he starts to like undress, and she's like, no. And he's like, oh, okay, like she's not ready yet. And so then they kind of like learn each other's names, like they do the thing of like, I'm Emily.
Right.
And he's like, okay, I'm Victel, and whatever. He tries to give her food, but it is incredibly spicy and raw meat.
Got it.
And inedible. And basically, she's still hungry. She does drink some water, but she finally she falls asleep because she's exhausted and terrified and
she just
hungry.
came.
She just came post orgasmic, sleepiness. And he keeps her safe, and they both fall asleep together. The next morning, she's weak from hunger, and he slings her piggyback style on his back, and they go hunting. He recognizes that she doesn't have the correct furs, and so he gives her some of his furs. Andrew's loving this. He tries to teach her a few things, like how to, what a type of meat is, how to do something, and realizes that she's 100% not from this world. And he finally, after trying to teach her some stuff, and she's kind of not getting it, he's like, all right, let's go to a stream and whatever. So he teaches her how to wash with soap berries in the stream.
Got it. Yep.
And as they both undress, he gets aroused, and she sees his huge dick and a bump above the dick, which will come into play later.
Got it.
He shows her how to use the special soap berries he has, and she realizes, aside from the whole oral sex thing, he's been nothing but kind and trying to be helpful. And so she does feel safe with this man.
Yeah.
With this being, if you will. And she also thinks he's super hot, but is like, well, I gotta save my girls, so I can't just go off with this blue man. She kisses him whilst they are both in the stream together washing, and says, okay, well, that was a kiss. It's like how you... teach a dog, sit, that was a good sit.
Yeah.
They kiss, and then she goes, mountain. Kiss, mountain. And so she's like, basically, if you take me up there, I'll give you more kisses. And he's like, I like that. That sounds good to me. And so they go. And she gets all pissed because they end up stopping for the night. And she's like, we got to keep going. And he's like, no, not safe. And she tries to go herself. She ends up falling through powder snow into a cave.
No.
Full of met claps.
What?
Snow monkeys.
Oh.
Evil snow monkeys.
Horrifying. Okay.
He saves her from the evil snow monkeys and is like, God damn it. And she's like, I'm so sorry. And then he gives her a knife. She's like, thanks, I feel safer now.
Now I have knife.
Now I have knife.
Knife.
He's like, I'm going to teach you how to defend yourself. And they start talking and trying to communicate and learning words. So they're doing the thing of pointing at furs. And she goes, fur. And he says, fur in his language. And then so
cool.
They kind of do that. They move on to body parts. So she kind of touches his hair, and she's like, hair. And he's like, hair.
Right.
I can't think of another. Pelo. And as they keep going, she's like touching more of his body, and he is getting aroused. And he kind of pushes her away because he was like, you weren't into that. Don't worry. And she's like, I'm kind of into it. I see the tent arising. And he's like, I don't want to push you anything. And she's like, kiss. And so they kiss. They start to make out, which leads to number 2, them doing it.
Great.
Which I call, she finds out what that knob is actually used for. Hint, it's her clit. It's for her clit.
Got it. I was wondering. I kind of figured.
Yeah.
It was those butterflies that are at the end of a lot of those vibrators.
That's okay. That's literally what I was thinking. I was like, oh, this woman is just using a vibrator as her basis for this man's genitalia.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very much. Which nothing wrong with that at all.
No, she knows what she wants. Mm-hmm. Next morning, and the whole time he's like, this is great. This is my mate. We're mating. This is amazing.
His inner monologue. Yeah, his inner monologue is kicking his feet and twirling his hair.
And her inner monologue is like, well, at least I can't get pregnant from an alien, right?
Right.
Look at it.
I bet it comes up later.
It got me so mad, and I was like, ugh, whatever. The next morning, they're getting ready to go, and they see, as they leave the cave, they see a foot, and they realize one of the girls is dead in the snow, has left, because it's been a few days now. It's been 2 or 3 days. Another girl tried to leave and is frozen solid. And she's like, oh my God. Vectel now realizes there are more human women. And she's like, we gotta go. So they hightail it to the ship. And
it took him this long to realize that she was actually trying to accomplish her own goals.
Right.
Correct.
He's never had to think about that before.
There is some stuff about that too. She hurt her wrist in the ship crash, and during the night he realizes that she hurt herself, and he's like, how have I not realized this yet. And then like when he took her to the stream, she was like, oh my God, she's filthy because of the ship crash. He's like, fuck, I'm being a terrible mate. Like, I didn't even realize that she needs things. And so he's being
so sweet.
He's being very attentive. I wish we were videotaping this just for Andrew's reactions. The girls are reunited, and he's like, oh my God, okay, I will find wood for a fire. And as he leaves the girls to talk, he's like, oh my God, there's so many girls. All the guys in my tribe are going to find a mate. This is amazing.
Now I understand why there are so many books in this series.
There are so many books.
How many do you remember how many books?
22.
Jesus
well,
Christ.
some of them are novellas.
Okay.
So I know
Sure,
not
there is
all
a
of
Christmas
them.
episode.
There's, I think, 2 or 3 Christmas episodes, right?
I can't even remember. I'm telling you, I read them because my best friend loves this type of writing. But there's another one with spiders that she's really into.
No. Let me know what it is, but no.
I will.
I want to see it. I want to try it. Absolutely not. The spider people from
No, thank you.
from Madam Web.
I legit can't even wait to show you the cover art.
Oh.
Oh my God. So they feed and they warm the girls and they make a plan. They leave the girls behind because he can't take them all. They don't have shoes. He doesn't have enough furs. And so he basically communicates that he's going to take Georgie back to the tribe and get all the shit that they need and people to save these girls.
Right.
They leave what furs and food that they do have with the girls. The girls are like, okay, but please don't forget about us. And she's like, don't worry, I got you guys. And also they spend the night there. And he's been very like possessive of her the whole time. And he like carries her to another side of the ship. And they're all like, are you guys fucking? Are you guys that's Liz. She's like, y'all banging? And she's like, shut up. And they
do that.
They kind of like make out and then they cuddle. She's like, I'm not fucking in front of my friends in a cargo bay filled with dead aliens and shit.
Meanwhile,
fair.
he's like, what the fuck?
But we could.
Yeah.
It would be fun.
That's literally what he's like. Yeah. So they travel all day and they come to another hunting cave and to stop for the night. And they're finally like, you know what? We're alone. Let's bang again. And that one I call number 3, cave sex is best sex. Because this is the best one yet.
Is it?
It is the Cave of the Elders.
Oh.
And they're like, I've been thinking about you all day. Like, they're both like fully into it now.
I forgot about that.
Oh, the Cave of the Elders? Yeah. And after banging, she's in her post-orgasmic bliss. But then she sees a blinking red light. She goes, what the fuck is that? He's like, elders of cave elders. And she's like, no. She takes like she looks, there's like a thick wall of ice, but beneath that, it's a spaceship. It is another spaceship that they have been banging in. So she takes the fire and they melt the wall of ice there, and she ends up booting up the spaceship because there's a light blinking. So
Cool.
of course it can work.
Yeah.
She learns that both humans and the Sakhs, Sakhs, Sakhs fifth?
Yeah, I would say socks.
I think it's Sakh.
I would go yes. I mean, if you want, I have the audiobook. I can just double check that.
I think let's go socks.
I think let's go Sox because
Yeah.
the Sakui is what I was saying in my head. The humans and the Sox, the blue guys, are both stranded here. Although the blue guys have been here for a lot longer.
Right.
She learns that this was a pleasure cruiser that crashed, and it was 287 years ago. Although years are way longer on this planet, so that's why these people are there. She learns that a Kui is the organism of the planet that people who are not of this planet can accept into their bodies, and it helps them adapt and live on the planet because the weather is so harsh. So
Got it.
Vectel the whole time has been wearing like normal leather pants and like kind of a vest and then like a fur on top. But he's like, I'm fine without the fur. She's like, how are you so fucking... It's an ice planet. How are you doing that?
It's because of this cooey.
This is
It's the Kui.
February in Chicago.
It's
Right.
hardcore February, the beautifulest month. My birthday's in February.
Mm-hmm.
The computer is like, oh, do you... And she says something about language. And the computer's like, I can give you language if you want. And she's like, fuck yeah. And now they can talk. Because the computer zaps a laser into her brain, giving her full... knowledge of the Sakh language.
Excellent.
And she wakes up and he's like, oh my God, my mate. And she's like, oh my God, I can understand you. And they're like, what?
Love this so much. So convenient.
She learns that he's like, you're my mate, and she's like, whoa, I like you. It's been really fun banging. I don't know if I want you as my mate. I don't know if I'm gonna stay here. And he's like, let's talk about that later. She goes back to the tribe. Andrea's laughing her ass off. She goes back to the tribe, and everyone's like, oh my God, what? Like, who is this? There's a little kid that's like, why is that thing ugly? And she's like, fuck you. And he's like, okay, I'm going to get the healer for you. You go do that. You'll go into my cave. And it's like, what their tribal cave is like you enter in, and then there's like a pool.
Right.
And then it's like kind of an apartment building, but all caves.
Got it.
So
there's just like many entrances
yes,
that you
like
can,
a hive.
Yeah,
Correct.
Okay.
That's a better way to say it.
I got
Thank
that
you.
visual. I have
so
that.
she goes into his hive and with the healer, and he goes and talks to, because he is like one of the chiefs of the tribe, which we've
Obviously.
learned. Yes, and he's like, hey guys, I need all the warriors. I found some ladies. And they're like, oh my God, can we finally have mates? Because there's 4 women in this tribe. There's like 50-something guys.
Oh, those poor girls.
They're just being used consensually. So she learns more about the Kui from the healer and is like, whoa, no wonder he's so focused on me, because she learns like how the Kui interacts with the body and why he is like purring so much. Like, it's making him be like, I need to mate with you, but like, I'm trying. So she's like, wow, he's been like so like patient with me. And there's literally like, he's totally getting a handy when he comes back. That's how the chapter ends. This book series is amazing. It's incredible. It's insane.
The part that was like the purring, I totally forgot about the purring.
Yeah.
So he's been purring this whole time?
This entire
like
time.
not the like yes and no, because there's times where they're like hunting and obviously he's fine, but like when they're basically together, he's just like she's like, I like that, and he's like, what are you talking about? What's purring?
Oh, so he doesn't even
he
know.
doesn't understand what that is.
It's his Kui letting him know.
It's his Kui, you
Right,
dum-dum.
right, obviously.
So she's like, he's totally getting a handy, which leads to number 4, a thank you blowjob.
Damn, get a girl.
But she's like, I can't fit you all in my mouth. And he's like, what do you mean? And then she doesn't. He's like, this is the best feeling I've ever felt in my entire life. My resonance has her warm mouth. And then like also, like not until they can understand each other's language. We've heard his inner monologue of like, God, she tastes so good. Like, God. But it's not like crass. Mm-hmm. And then they learn each other's languages. And he turns to like, I would love for you to like, just like, I would love to like be in your cunt like all day. And you're just like, whoa.
He's getting comfortable.
He's getting comfortable.
He can pull out comfortable if he
like
needs
that.
to.
He's comfortable.
He's comfortable.
So thank you, blowjob.
Yeah, thank you, blowjob.
They talk about the Kui, and he's like, yeah, it's never going to stop purring for you. You know, not even like when you inevitably get pregnant. And she's like, what? And he's like, well, yeah, that's how like mates, that's why my Kui is like purring. That's how my inside has found your inside. Like it recognizes you as someone who like I can impregnate. And she's like, wait, what? And she's like, well, I'm fucked. And then she kind of like, she's like, yep, I've definitely not had my period. Oh my God. And she's like, well, okay, I guess I got to go rescue the girls now while I'm pregnant. And so on the way to rescue the girls, some of the warriors, he takes a bunch of warriors. They take like all the furs, all this blah, blah, blah. They stop in the Elder's Cave. Some of the warriors get zapped with English so they can understand the girls.
Great.
So they get to the ship. Okay, the gals are getting worse because there is like planet sickness. And as the computer had said before, it's the Kui is the organism that helps you live on the planet. So because they've been here like pretty much a week without it, even though they've had shelter, they've now had food and water, they are just like barely hanging on.
Got it.
And so they need to accept the Kuis or they might die. They're like, Georgie's like, okay, let me talk to all the girls because I don't know.
Like this parasite, it leads to an orgasm.
At least you are, but also you can't leave.
And you'll be pregnant?
You can't leave this planet if you take the organism. If you take the Kui into you, you cannot leave because your survival now depends on it and it depends on you. So if the Kui dies, you will die.
Got it.
So it's this whole thing. And she's like, I'm going to stay because I'm pregnant. And they're like, you've been gone a week. What? And
Powerful.
she's like,
A
I
powerful
know.
man.
But she's like, we don't have to do it. I don't know when they're because again, remember in the beginning, Kira has the translator stapled to her ear. She has heard that they are coming back. They dropped off the crash was they dropped off the cargo to pick up later. So they know that the bad aliens are going to come back. And they're like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's stay here. These guys are kind of hot. They're blue, but they're hot. We have food. Like, we can do this. They also are like, oh, should we wake up the other girls? So these girls, the 5, including Georgie, were extras. There are 6 girls in, like, hibernation tubes behind the wall.
Oh.
That's why there's 22 books, my friend.
Yep.
And they're like, fuck, they've just been asleep this whole time. Should we wake them up? Because they don't know anything that's happened.
Yeah.
And they're like, or should we let them be picked up by the evil aliens? They're like, no, we should wake them up.
Yeah.
So they take all 11 girls.
This is very girl power.
It is kind of very girl power.
I love it.
And so they wake up the other girls and they're like, okay, we gotta go. The bad aliens are coming back. They also all had implanters like in their arms. So they like take the second to like knife it out, and another warrior drops it in the monkey cave.
Yep.
So fun.
Handled.
They all leave and they're on their way back to the tribe when they find the large beast called like the Sakui or something that holds the Kuis within. And it's like a ginormous like mammoth, like, you know, on Ice Planet Hoth, the camel robot things. Yeah, I'm thinking that size, but like a living being.
Got it.
Yes. And all the guys are like, you guys wait here. We're going to go kill it and get you some worms. And they're like, what? And they do it. And they go. They slaughter this beast. All these worms fall out. They're like, these are the Kuis. And they're like, fuck. They all have to make an incision in their collarbone. And the worm crawls in. And then they all like pass out. They all wake up. Glowing blue eyes. Everyone has survived the Kui transformation.
Oh my God.
And Georgie's like, is everyone okay? Vectel's like, yeah, all the warriors are watching the girls. Everyone's safe. We could go home. And she starts purring and he starts purring. And she's like, we need to get to a hunter's cave immediately.
Ooh.
And he's like, okay. And so they leave. They just leave everyone right out there. Go to a hunter's cave, and for number 5, which I call that knob is good for 2 things. Because then, also, all these blue guys have tails.
Right.
So during number 4, when they were having sex, he's like, well, she like turned around. And he's like, I've never done it like that because like everyone has tails. And so when they go to the hunter's cave this time, she's like, do you want to do it that way? And he's like, okay. And then the knob part goes into her booty. But like, it's not too far. It's just like a little kiss of the bit.
It's just enough. Yeah.
It's just a tickle of the anus.
A little.
And she's like, this is the best. And he's like, my mate. And she's like, my mate. And that's Ice Planet Barbarians.
Oh, wow. Good work.
I think I'd summarize that perfectly.
That was amazing.
Thank
It was
you.
amazing.
Oh,
Thank you.
Wow. Beautiful.
I'm dead. That was amazing.
I, again, read 6 books for this and synopsized 1. So I don't have like a full game.
That's fine.
But I guess I do want to discuss, would you take a Kui?
If I was in that exact situation?
Yes, like would you want to continue living on this barren planet where they're basically living in the Ice Age? There is no electronics. They have fire. They hunt for food sources. They wear furs. That's it. You have come from your life here.
I mean, if the option was that or be sex trafficked by an unknown
or death
force, then yeah.
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 You wouldn't want to just go, you know what? I've had a good 22 years.
No.
Because this sounds dark. I did think I was like, I don't know.
I could always
Don't
kill
wake me.
myself later. Like, if I didn't like the Kui, I could always kill myself later.
In all fairness, like the likelihood that you're just going to be eaten anyways gets a little bit higher the more you look around. So I feel like,
True.
You know, like if the option is a Viking-esque looking blue, the problem I have is the lack of communication. I've had it with every series that somebody has suggested to me that is like this, which is like, but why the barrier of is it because we have a barrier of communication now?
I love
Like,
the easy fix of, well, there's a computer that can zap our brains.
Right.
And I was like, I fucking love that. I love that. It's so silly and dumb and just fun. And okay, another thing is, if you wake up to a gigantic blue alien eating you out, what do you do? Do you have the same thought process as Georgie going, well, this is pretty nice. He seems to not want to hurt me. I'll write out the orgasm and go from there? Or are you like, get the fuck off of me?
No, I'm a panicker.
Yeah,
I think I am too.
Yeah, I think I would panic. It might be I need a second and then we can get back to it situation.
Which is what she did too.
Yeah. But it would definitely be an initial like, wait a second, no, hold on type thing. Yeah.
I think that the other issue there is also that like we are in a moment of suspended disbelief.
Correct.
Like, can you imagine waking up and like all of a sudden aliens? There you go. That's the first thing you say. Like at this point, I'm like, what a weird dream I'm having.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wake up really really in a weird place from this edible. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, that's
but I guess she already had the weirdest possible couple of days.
Yeah, she's already been abducted by evil aliens.
Yeah.
And this one is now caring for her.
what a crazy trip this has been for this poor girl.
Well, that was Ice Planet Barbarians.
Good job.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Oh, my God.
Different type of soulmate, you know, but it does work because it is something within you calling to something else within you. I know I was saying like fated mates was an outside force, and I guess technically a Kui could be an outside force, but the Kui lives within you.
Right.
And you are now it, and it is now you. So
And you also have to accept it.
you also have to accept it. And the Kui of Vectal was like, that Kui-less bitch over there is my mate. And so forces
The souls.
it could wombs to wieners. That's the second quote of this.
Oh man.
A good schlonging and wombs to wieners.
You gotta write it down.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to though.
Okay.
I'll do it when I'm editing.
Got it. All right. Well, are you ready for a completely different vibe?
I'm ready to be derailed.
Great.
Here we are.
Boy.
I am here with angst, as is my wont.
I'm so excited to hurt.
Okay, I have hurt for you. I think you will like this. I like it. I had read it before and then stumbled on it when I realized I had to throw out that Sherlock fanfiction. So this is A Season for Setting Fires by Mightbewriting, which is a Hermione fanfic. We will do our standard fuck turfs disclaimer. We do not endorse the views of J.K. Rowling. We
Fuck
just
her.
like to play with her characters.
Yes.
Yes.
Agreed.
Yes. So there is a podfic for this that I wanted to shout out, and it is on ETL Echo Audiobooks, which if people like audiobooks, that is a group of people who, for free, record and upload Hermione fanfic to Spotify. This is a 31-chapter fanfic that was completed in March of 2022. It is the part of so many collections, so many bookmarks. It is very popular. It is a Soulmate AU. It is a Voldemort Wins AU. And I do need to do a trigger warning for torture, death, injury, PTSD, and war.
Classic.
Classic.
So
I feel like I've heard you talk about this one. I cannot recall it.
I
don't-
sent this to you like a year ago.
I must have
when
read,
I read
it then because
I
I've read so many Hermione
I don't
fanfictions
know.
now.
I don't know if you did. I know that I sent it to you towards the end because I was like, I really, really like this, and I think you would too. But I don't know if you ever. I don't remember if you ever
This
said that you read
also
it.
might have been when you also were sending me Tom Riddle stuff.
Could have
and
been.
it could have gotten lost in the shuffle.
Could have been.
Yeah.
I send you a lot of stuff.
I like it. Keep doing it.
But yeah, this one is one of those that I think is really well written. I'm going to be doing quotes because I appreciated a lot of them. And yeah, stop me at any time. But I did text Emily and go, hey, so I'm bringing an epic to the table. So if your story is short, it'll be fine. I will be able to fill the time.
Short, quick,
So-
blue alien sex.
Short, quick, blue alien sex so that I can talk about torture.
Yes. Yes.
I'm so happy.
Good.
This is such
so
a great.
wonderful.
I love our podcast,
I
you
know.
guys.
Yeah, I love your podcast too. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, yeah.
Anytime. Okay, chapter 1, Draco's POV. The first line is, torture smells like spring. Hermione is being gruesomely...
I've read this.
You read this? Great. Hermione is being gruesomely, horribly tortured on the floor of the manor by Bellatrix Lestrange, as we all know happens in the 6th
7th. No, because it's during the war, so it's 7th.
During the war, after they get captured, they're in the manor. Harry and Ron are in the dungeons. She thought fast and zapped Harry's face so that they couldn't recognize him. And then they pull her out of the dungeon, and they are torturing her on the floor. And Lucius and Narcissa and Draco are all kind of standing there watching, because it's in the, like, I always picture it as like the foyer of Malfoy Manor. I don't necessarily remember if that's accurate.
They said drawing room, I want to say.
Drawing room? Okay.
I could be wrong.
But have you guys seen the hot Death Eaters at on TikTok
at Universal or whatever?
I have,
Oh my god!
Sorry.
The hot. You know what?
So problematic, but
it's the next generation of the hot evil guy at Halloween Horror Nights who like skids on the ground.
Oh my god!
Anyways, bookmark that. We'll talk about that later.
We'll get there. We'll get there. So Draco is watching Hermione be tortured and is absolutely horrified and upset. But he is even more upset by the gold cord that has appeared and is stretching from her chest to his. His mother is holding his hand and like kind of holding him down and being like, don't move, don't draw attention to yourself, your aunt's being fucking crazy, and we don't need this. And he's thinking like, I hate Hermione, but I don't want her dead, and also I know what this cord means, and I've been waiting for this my entire life. This is supposed to be something that's really important to me and really like a really big deal, but of course it's happening right now because of course this is my life. But then he sees Hermione very, very weakly lift up her hand and try to grasp the cord on her chest. And so he realizes that she definitely sees it too. It's not just him. And unfortunately, Bella notices and starts to kind of mock her and be like, because she thinks that Hermione's pointing at Draco. And Bella is starting to be like, oh, well, you think Mudblood that he's going to come and save you. You know, you're going to die here, you filthy, filthy Mudblood. And he doesn't even realize it, but he starts to mumble like, no, not her, no, not now. And he's like quietly crying, and Narcissa, his mom, who is a badass, immediately realizes what's going on, and in his ear whispers, is it the bond? And they both try to keep quiet as they can, and Bella hears them whispering though and goes up and pushes Draco and is yelling and is like, what are you talking about? Are you this and
such FOMO.
You know,
what are you guys
talking
about?
And Narcissa shoots a stunner at her and goes, don't you dare touch my son. And Lucius helps him up and whispers, a Mudblood, Draco, come, like,
God.
and
shut up, Dad.
And Draco says, it's not as if I can help it. And then Bella hears and she realizes what's going on. And she looks between them and gives them this evil, wide smile. And then they hear a popping sound from the basement and realize that Potter and Weasley are rushing up with their wands drawn. But Bella is way too quick and grabs Hermione and is like, drop your wands or else I'm going to kill her right now. And so they drop their wands, and Narcissa is still whispering in Draco's ear. And she's like, Bella knows. She's going to tell the Dark Lord, you have to get out of here. Like, if they run, you need to run with them. Like, it's no longer safe for you here. And so then when the chandelier starts to fall because Dobby has loosened it, Draco picks up the wands that they've dropped, tosses them to Harry. And then as they start to disappear, Draco grabs them so that he can go along with them and apparate away. But he doesn't see the knife that Bella just threw. And so they land in the ocean outside of Shell Cottage, as we know they do. We're in Hermione's POV now. And Ron is like pawing at her and being like, are you okay? And she's super disoriented because they landed in the middle of the ocean. She was just tortured. And she feels this ache in her chest, and she sees this silver rope appear suddenly as Malfoy lands next to her. And she, on instinct, kind of like reaches for the rope, and in doing that she gets a better look at Draco, and he's got Bella's knife sticking out of his ribs. And Ron, being Ron, sees him, stands up, goes over and punches Draco in the face immediately.
I mean, up until that point.
You love Ron as a villain, evidently.
Always
love Ron. Oh, this is a Ron bashing podcast.
And that's the last thing she sees before she fully passes out. Draco is just surprised that he's still alive. But then he very quickly gets imprisoned in the cottage. So they lock him away in an upstairs room. They ward it. They silence it. He cannot see in or out. He cannot hear anything. And he's just trapped in there for 3 days. And they keep trying to interrogate him and basically saying, like, we'll heal you if you tell us what you know. And he's like, I don't know anything. And the quote is, because Aunt Bella is a massively psychotic cunt, my wound won't heal. And so he's just in horrible agony, kind of waiting for them to realize and to let him out. And Hermione, on the other side of it, when she wakes up, all she can do is keep staring at this rope and thinking about it and examining it and trying to figure out what it is. Weeks go by. Draco's being interrogated every day. And finally, they send Lupin in to good cop him. And Lupin's like, we just need to know where your loyalties lie. And Draco says, I've never had a choice in where my loyalties lie, but I'm here now. And it's not in my interest to betray you. Mm-hmm. And Lupin heals his ribs, but they keep him locked away. They decide to, and now we're back in Hermione's POV, they decide to hatch the plan all together to break into Gringotts. And so they have Bella's wand. They're getting ready to do the polyjuice thing to, go in there and try to get the cup. All of this is canon, and we're kind of moving alongside of it. But Hermione gets this great sense that she needs to talk to Draco because there's a real chance that she might die. And she knows enough to know that this rope is connecting them and something is going on. And so she goes to his door and drops the silencing charm and just puts her palm to the door and goes, do you know what this is? What's going on with us? And she says, do you see it too? And Malfoy is a little bitch. And he goes, of course I do, Granger. And she says, okay, well, we're leaving tomorrow. There's a very real chance that a lot of us don't come back. You're not coming with us. And he's like, I don't have a wand. I don't have any way to defend myself. What do you mean everyone's leaving? And she was like, well, if one of us dies, the wards will fall. You'll be able to leave. So that's how you'll know.
In this other person's house.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. It's in Shell Cottage. So it's Fleur and Bill's
house.
And so they...
No, go on. Sorry.
They're not going with them to Gringotts. They're staying. But Hermione was basically like, either they will let you out or they will die.
Gotcha.
But there are going to be people here to keep an eye on you. But everybody else is leaving to go on this mission.
I also realized I read 3 chapters past this and then stopped because I got stressed the fuck out.
Yes!
So I will also be virginal with this story.
Yes. And with that, Hermione and the crew leave on the Gringotts mission. From Draco's POV, it has been 3 days with no glowy cord, no sound, no food, no light, completely alone in this dark room, when all of a sudden sound rushes back into the room and he realizes that the wards must have dropped. And so he immediately throws open the door and starts ransacking this completely deserted cottage. There's no one in there anymore, looking for a wand because he's like, okay, someone died. I'm trapped here. I need a way out. Can't find anything. Runs outside, runs up a sand dune because they're on the beach, looks around, doesn't see anybody, and is basically just trying to figure out what he's going to do when he hears a pop back in the cottage. And he runs back, and as he's starting to run right after the pop, the gold cord reforms. So he knows that it's Hermione.
Well, Andrew and I just looked at each other going, oh.
Yep. Hermione is sitting on the living room floor, kneeling, screaming into a pillow, and just absolutely losing it. And Draco, being Draco, just coldly goes, is Weasley dead then? Or did his wife manage the wards? And
Draco,
yeah, and he opts to, and because we're getting his internal monologue, he opts to lean into being disgusted about her show of emotion rather than feel any sort of what his bond is telling him to feel, which is concern and care and worry for her. Yeah. He's like, no, I'm gonna lean into this gross girl
because it's easier.
Because it's easier and it's more familiar to him. And so he's like, Granger, we need to move. Something is going on. And she's like, Harry's gone. they're gone. They died. They're gone. And Draco's like, we have to get out of here. Like, they're going to figure out where you went. We have to go. And she's just absolutely losing it. But she's like, we need to keep fighting. We need to find a safe place. She's like, well, I suppose now you'll go back to the Dark Lord. And he's like, I can't. I am safer with you. I'm your shadow now. And she's packing a bag and getting ready to go hide when a dozen loud cracks sound off from all around the cottage, and they know that the Death Eaters have found them. And there's suddenly spells just flying through, the ground shakes, and Hermione freezes. Like, she's not moving. She's absolutely panicking. And Malfoy grabs her wrist and apparates them away without a wand.
Well, but she has a wand.
She has a wand.
Okay, he doesn't. Yes,
he doesn't have a wand.
That's some strong magic. Oh, that's so sexy. Competency cake. Found it. So wandless magic.
They land in a forest. Hermione immediately is like, you didn't have a wand. How did you do that? And he was like, I was touching you, though, and you had a wand. So
that's what I thought.
So we can share because of the bond.
Oh, because of the bond. You can't just do that then.
No. Because of the bond, they are connected. Their magic is connected in this way.
Oh my God.
Okay, for the listeners, Andrea is sitting there, hand to bosom,
clutching her pearls,
clutching invisible pearls, saying, "Oh my God." Continue on, Jessica.
They killed off Harry Potter.
They killed Harry Potter pretty much immediately.
I hate when they kill Harry Potter because
I love it.
That's why I stopped reading. Now I'm stressed out.
Yep.
I get so stressed.
I'm so stressed.
No, he's gone.
I had to take a photo.
And so, she's like, that's not how magic works. And Malfoy goes, that's how my family's magic works. And I would think I would know better than you how that happens. And then she gets them to a safe place and
punch Malcolm. Draco Malfoy.
Malcolm in the middle.
Punch him in the face. Draco is very annoyed that now they have to camp and complains loudly about it.
This is why Draco Malfoy is my perfect person.
I was just going to say, I'm like, wow, I can really relate to that.
Yeah.
Draco is he understands why, but he's very annoyed and very pointedly goes, well, I don't have magic and you do, so you can set up the tent. And so makes Hermione set up camp.
But I get it, but also fuck.
He's a little bitchy asshole.
He has been in prison for 3 weeks, with no magic.
Yeah, he's a little salty, and I don't necessarily blame him.
There's two sides to every story.
Because the Order also left him with a cursed rib wound for weeks while they interrogated him. So he's not feeling particularly kind. But the entire time she's trying to set up camp, because all she has now is, if you remember, her wand gets snapped, and so she has
Bellatrix's wand.
Wand, and Bella's wand is not suited to healing magic and is not suited to anything that involves building things. So Hermione, the entire rest of the story, is actively fighting to perform magic well because Bella's wand doesn't want to do it for her. And so Draco goes to bed once the tent is set up, but Hermione stays up all night sending Patronuses to anyone she can think of, trying to see who's still alive and who is still reachable. Yes, she's just sending little otters out.
Like Crescent City.
little baby otters. And she basically, in the morning when Draco wakes up, she's starting to have a panic attack, and he kind of grabs her and gets her to talk, and they think through a plan. And he then tries to take the wand and is like, hey, you froze up yesterday. I should maybe have this. And she's like, absolutely not. I don't trust you yet. I'm keeping the wand.
Fair. But two sides to every story. Andrea's sipping her wine.
But she's just beside herself because none of her Patronuses come back.
Control is control.
Mm-hmm. Or not come back. They all come back, which means that they weren't delivered. So all of her Patronuses come back to her. She does not get a response from anyone until the next day, in the middle of trying to eat the berries that they were able to scavenge. They get Ron's Patronus.
Oh my God.
Back to them.
Ron
survived. And the plan is to meet up 1 week from today at the place where we saw Fluffy's pajamas, I think was what it was. I didn't write it down. But it was a coded meeting place for them to meet.
Trying to think if I know the code.
Yeah. When that happens, Hermione's ecstatic and is like, Ron's alive. And Draco goes, outstanding. And then walks back into the tent. So now they're basically just waiting a week until they can go meet up with the friends. Hermione, the next day, her POV, she has started to set a timer each morning in order to make sure that her crying doesn't take up too much of the day. So she times herself for 15 minutes so that she can cry and scream as much as she wants. And then she forces herself to get herself together and continue on forging or whatever else.
Gotcha.
Which was a move that I really respected as a type A person.
I mean, yeah, actually, that feels very Hermione coded.
Yes.
Yeah. Good job, writer.
We're handling the trauma. Yeah, handling the trauma in a very in character way, I think.
Yes.
And so they decide, like, Draco's wound is not doing well. They're like, we need to go to a Muggle town, try to get some food, try to get some medicine.
Oh, he's gonna hate that.
Yes. He does not know what to do about a Muggle shop. They go to like a little seaside town and go into like a drugstore with some snacks and things. And he's just looking around, and Hermione has to stop herself and like remind herself to be patient and that he's never seen any of this, because she's initially like, why are you so fucking weird? And because he's just standing, just looking at everything. And she goes, we're trying to steal things from here and you're being weird. Get it together. And he just like smiles at her and pockets a bottle of red nail polish for her.
He is something.
They cast a confundus on the pharmacist so that they can get medicine, knowing that it will probably trigger some kind of alarm. And just as they step back outside and Hermione's like, okay, that went okay. Everything goes black. She feels arms around her waist, and then she hits the ground. Draco sees a stunner hit her in the back. They'd obviously tripped some kind of ministry alarm, and now they realize that Voldemort's people are the ministry.
Oh shit!
They have taken over the ministry. All magical like safety nets, safeguards are now down to the Dark Lord, so they are not safe anywhere. And he once again gets them out on top of her, like grabs Bella's wand, apparates them away. When he apparates them away, it's not before they get a hex onto his leg and cut him really bad on like the like inner upper thigh area.
Oh, that's a major artery.
It is.
Where vampires like to sex sleep people.
Yeah, you know that from experience?
Shut up.
I'm so sorry.
I don't want to. My mom listens to this.
I shouldn't talk out of school like that.
Actually, the reason we were so scared when Jake broke his leg before we got married is that, like, when he broke his leg, they were like, yeah, it's really close to an artery. And I was like, I'm so sorry. Also, the guy who came downstairs, I 1000% was just, I thought he was just part of like HR, letting us know that our insurance wasn't being taken. And like, he's like, by the way, surgery's tomorrow type of like behavior. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. Who are you?
Yeah.
But
Hello, random man.
Yeah, he was like, my name's Brian, and I'm going to be doing his surgery because this is really close to an artery. And I'm like, wait, I'm so sorry. Pardon, what? He can walk on this shit. He's fine.
That's so scary.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. But like,
because the bone might like pierce something.
yes.
Wow.
Because he broke the bone into the kneecap.
Ooh,
Damn.
Jesus.
That's so. I've never even considered that, but of course that's something.
Yeah.
Wow.
Legs are fucking scary.
Legs are
If you hurt a
spoopy.
leg, it's spoopy.
It's spoopy.
Spoopy leg hurts.
So he's got a cut on his leg, and she's trying to help. So she like rolls up his pant, like, because she has all the Muggle like bandages and medicine and things he does not know how to use. He has never seen a bandage before. He has never had to use medicine before. She had to explain to him, like, it's like potions. Like, you're not supposed to take certain ones with other ones, and they have different effects. And he's like, this is weird.
Don't drink on cold medicine.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't operate heavy machinery.
And she is trying to get him, like, bandaged up. And she's like, you need to take off your pants so I can so I can get to the rest of the wound. And he's like, I don't want to. And is, like, being a child. And she's arguing with him. And he goes, God, you're so obnoxious. I'm not going to sit here in nothing but my boxers while you touch me.
Okay, Malfoy.
And she like blushes and goes, oh, I didn't think about that. And he just sighs very dramatically and goes, fine, and takes off his pants.
He's so dramatic.
And every time that like they make physical contact with each other, the rope that is still between both of their chests that no one else can see is happy. Like they feel like every time even they touch hands,
you might say?
not even like a vibration, not even like a purring, but more just like they feel like a satisfaction. It's like something, it's like a feeling of like warmth and comfort and I'm good now every time they make physical contact with each other, like skin to skin.
Color?
The bond does not change color.
Okay, because it was gold in the beginning.
It's
and now
gold
it's silver.
for him when he sees it. It's silver for her when she sees it.
That makes more sense. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
I don't know why they made it hotter. It somehow did.
Yeah, it's personalized.
The golden girl
The
golden girl?
Yeah.
and the silver boy.
There you go.
Silver fox.
And so now they're
yet.
both just very aware now because he made a fucking big deal about it that he's in his boxers. And
He started it.
I know. And he takes them off, sits back down, and tries very hard to ignore the fact that now she is kneeling in front of him, trying to bandage him. And she goes, quote, lift the leg of your boxers. She swallows, averting her gaze back down at the bandage. Just a bit, just so that I can... She makes an unintelligible little motion with the bandage he assumes means to suggest wrapping his leg. He's going to die of mortification, tongue smashed against his teeth, lips twisted into a terrible sneer. Fine, but I need you to back up for a second. What? I need to adjust some things.
Okay.
And we get a very slow, very tense, like eye contact scene while he adjusts his cock in his boxers.
Eye contact?
Yes.
That's too much.
Like kind of making eye contact, but also trying to not. But like every time they do, it's very like
All I'm
loaded
thinking-
and intense.
all I'm thinking is like hardcore.
Yes. And they basically don't look at each other for the rest of the night.
As one does.
Right.
But also he goes, I need you to back up. How big is it that he has to adjust? That's what I was like, sorry, I have to literally move my whole body.
Well, because she was kneeling like
Yeah,
in front
yeah.
of him, and he was like, "Your face is kind of right,
Yeah.
right there."
That's so funny though.
Yeah.
Can I just have some space for a minute?
Yes.
To move
He's
my
also-
wiener.
Remember, he's also 17 years old, right?
They're both.
Yeah.
I think they're both 18 in this, but
Yeah.
yes, like they're babies.
18-year-old. Yeah, I want a million
Of age babies.
Yeah, of age babies, but I still want like I remember being 18. I want 6 feet of room if I have something awkward going on.
Yes, my body has done things, and I don't want you to perceive them at all.
No.
Later that night, Hermione is laying in her cot and is very aware of how close they sleep in this tiny little tent in the woods. And she's so annoyed with herself for touching him and for liking it and for feeling like a little bit powerful and like a little bit sexy that she had to make, like that she had to back up and give him space that he could adjust his erection.
Erection.
And she hears him sigh on the cot, like across from her. And
Like
she
she's paying
sighs.
taxes.
Oh yeah. And she goes, she's like, I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna say it. And she says, can't sleep.
I'm just gonna say it.
I'm just gonna say it. And he sits up and kind of his feet are on the ground. He's sitting like sideways on the bed. And she's like, you're not wearing a shirt. And he goes, you're not wearing trousers. And she says, they're sleep shorts. And he said, they're indecent. And she says, does that make things difficult for you? And he says, incredibly difficult. Thank you. And then they're just very, very quiet. And she feels him looking at her. And she keeps kind of like adjusting and sighing and squirming. And he says, please stop making noises. And she says, you stop making noises. And then he goes, stop making noises because they make me think about... And then he like trails off. And she says, well, your noises are making me think about... And he says, then do it, Granger. And she's like, fine. And she starts to touch herself.
Oh, okay.
And
Wasn't expecting that.
I thought do it meant like come over here and kiss me.
No.
Okay.
No.
Very taken aback.
she's sexually pent up, so is he. Indecent, but they do not want to cross the line of being with each other. And she's like, you know what? Fuck you. I'm gonna handle myself over here.
I'm sorry, that was the line. Excuse me.
We have a different guest now. Andrea is gone. The demon within Andrea has come.
That was the line?
What?
The line was that they're not going to touch, but I will masturbate in the same room as you.
Yes.
I see.
You know, the British are very different.
You know,
people.
there are bases that we follow.
I think it's because
I
think it's because there's still like a level of competitiveness almost between them right now, and it's a thing of like, well, if you can't handle I'm gonna handle my business and you handle yours, but actually touching each other or being more intimate is not something that either of them can handle.
It's also like showing a sign of weakness almost to both of them to like touch each other.
Yeah.
In not a time of need, like for health reasons.
Yeah.
That's
And
what
I'm realizing there's a lot of internal monologue here that I am definitely skimming over. But yes. So she starts to touch herself the whole time very pointedly making noises to be like, fuck you.
Yes.
And she doesn't think that he can even really see much because it's pitch black. They're in the middle of the woods in a tent. But she can tell that he starts to move as well. And so she keeps looking in his direction and also hearing like small sounds coming from him. And she gets really, really, really close to coming, and she like whines, and it's very obvious that she is. And he says, "You first, Granger."
Oh my God.
And
polite.
Yeah. Yeah.
British.
And she comes immediately and then falls asleep almost as quickly.
Post-orgasmic.
He, on the other hand, cannot sleep. After that, is fully shaken by what just happened. Is just thinking about like, what is happening? How am I here?
As is the rest of us.
Why do I feel like I want to be by this person? Why do I feel warmth and happiness when she touches me? What's going on? So he basically like gets up and starts to wander the woods until about like, it's like midday is how they said it. So like a couple of hours. He like goes to the river, washes off, like, you know, he comes back and she's panicked and is like, "Where were you? I thought that you left. Like, I didn't know where you were. You took the wand. Like, I thought that we had like done this kind of intimate thing and then you abandoned me." And he was like, I wouldn't do that to you. Like, I would think that you would understand by now. Like, this is where my loyalties lie. Like, all of my loyalties belong to you now, whether either of us likes it or not.
Ooh.
I know. She does tell him about Horcruxes. He does lose his mind because he does the logical thing that I think we all have done, where he goes, well, obviously he made 1,000 Horcruxes. Like, obviously Voldemort is unkillable. Why didn't you tell me about this before? We're all gonna die. Yeah. We're all doomed.
We're all gonna die.
Because of course he's made 1 million of them, and there's no way that you got them all. And she's like, no. We're pretty sure that it's just the snake. We're pretty sure that that's the last one, and we didn't think of it. We didn't get it. Harry was supposed to be the last one because we thought that was going to be it, but we miscalculated and we didn't kill the snake. And so Harry had gone to sacrifice himself knowing he was a Horcrux, thinking that would end it.
Oh, what a bummer.
And they just didn't do the math right.
What about the diadem?
All of that is gone. All of those were destroyed, but they left the stake.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, this is why I was so stressed.
Yes.
I was stressed.
Yeah. Are we past?
Oh, we're way past.
Oh,
we're way past.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they leave the next day to meet up with Ron and company.
Oh God. I'm so nervous.
They arrive at an abandoned Quidditch pitch in the middle of nowhere. Ron is there pointing Draco's wand at him that he still has, and Draco is immediately pissed about that. Draco doesn't even think about it, rushes up to him and punches Ron in the face this time.
I mean, fair.
And they
punch for punch.
Yeah, and they start to fight, and it reopens all of Draco's wounds, and he gets stunned by someone in the group and gets locked away into a tent by magic because everyone is like, oh, Draco Malfoy, the man
Bad
with
guy.
the dark mark,
Yeah.
immediately punched Ron, a danger to himself and others. So they lock him away again. We learn that the remaining survivors are Ron, George, Neville, Justin, and the Patils, the Padma and Pamarti.
Oh my God.
And
all the
they're not there. They don't know if they're alive. The only ones that have been able to find each other
right now
are these folks.
That is so traumatizing.
Isn't that horrible?
As a reader and a lover of all those people.
Oh my God.
Yes. After
Devastated.
absolutely, like almost everyone is dead, basically, is the understanding.
Okay.
After a couple of days of Hermione begging and pleading and saying, like, I promise he's good now, they finally let Draco out. Ron immediately punches him in the face again just to even the score. And everyone is clearly very suspicious of him, but Hermione refuses to tell anyone about the bond because she honestly she feels like she doesn't know enough about it herself. And so she's like, why am I going to blow up an already very traumatic situation by being like, I have this silver rope protruding from my chest that I know nothing about. I think it means something about me and Draco, but we haven't really gotten to that yet. And they kind of talk more about it in their tent, and Draco admits that the bond is part of old Malfoy magic cast by his ancestors, and that it was what his family got ran out of France for, because the Malfoys are like, that's part of like the family lore from the books, that they were in France. They moved to Great Britain, and he's been looking forward to this his entire life. Like, it was supposed to be this special thing that happens for Malfoy heirs, and it happened, and now he's very confused. And she's like, well, why would it pick me? I am the opposite of everything that, like, your family has ever wanted. So why would this special pure blood fucking magic want me to be your soulmate? And she's like, I've also never read anything about this, so I really, really don't believe that it's true. Like, I've never come across this in any of my books. And he's like
that for her.
Oh yeah, again, very in character. And he's like, all you need to do to know it's real is take my hand. And he lifts his hand up, and she puts her hand in his, and she feels like her hand is on fire. And then it feels like her hand is no longer her hand. It feels like it's her hand and his hand all at once. And they immediately feel super, super connected. And the light between them glows super brightly. And she immediately lets him go and is like, I don't want to deal with this.
Too much light.
No. And they force themselves to go to sleep. The next day, Hermione's really angry because she feels like they need to go sabotage Hogwarts. Ron thinks that they need to lay low. And Draco, like, grabs her in the middle of the argument and pulls her away, like, into a concessions area in this stadium. And is like, you're just really antsy because you didn't have your scheduled cry today. Why didn't you do that?
Oh.
And she was like, I didn't feel like I could. Like, I didn't want everyone to see me crying. And he's like, I would have left the tent. I know about the scheduled cry. And she's like, you're right. I'll talk to you about it later. Like, I'll ask you to leave the tent next time. He's like, okay, like, we need you to be functional. So, like, if that's what you need, then I'll leave. Like, I'll let you need what you need. Like, I'm here to help you. And she's like, how can you possibly be fine after this? And he goes, Granger, I'm not fine. My family's soulmate magic gave me you. Don't make that face. It's not as if we even like each other, let alone have anything in common. This is the absolute worst case scenario for both of us, if you haven't noticed. Nothing has really changed for me anyway, though. I've been living my worst case scenario for 2 years. And she gets very upset and says, it's not nice to be someone's last worst case scenario and be hated like this by you. And he, like, stops her and says, like, I'm sorry, I don't hate you. I just really, really hate that neither of us had a choice in this, and now we have to deal with it.
Interesting. Intriguing.
Jessica Mole.
What have I done?
Literally.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
What chapter is this at now?
We are on chapter 11.
Okay.
Yes,
I
we
was
are
just
nearly
curious.
halfway through. I'm moving quickly, I promise.
No, I was literally just curious because I was like, because I didn't know how far I had read.
Yeah.
So go on.
Yeah. So the group decides that they need to, again, they're low on supplies. They're in the middle of a Quidditch stadium. They're like, we need to go to Diagon Alley and try to get things. Ron and Hermione and Draco are their faces are plastered everywhere. They're very recognizable. So the rest of the group is like, okay, we'll go on a mission. It'll be fine. The next day, Draco watches Hermione watch her friends all apparate away to Diagon Alley, and then he apparates away too.
What?
Before her and Ron can properly react to realizing that Draco has left, the team that went to Diagon Alley starts popping back in, like 2-3 minutes later, and it is a bloodbath. They are all injured. They were all nearly caught. Neville has a huge gash out of his leg. Padma is not doing well. She's on the ground. Hermione is just trying to triage and help heal people, but she's still got Bella's fucking wand, so it's slow going. And then while she's in the middle of that, the fucking rope reappears and Draco is back. And she... And
Where the fuck did he go?
She grabs him and takes him to their special concession stand and is like what the fuck, what's wrong with you? And then we flash into his POV, and it's him sneaking into Malfoy Manor. We get a snippet of him thinking about how like the ache in his chest is really bad being away from her, like when the rope kind of dissolved when he apparated away, like it felt like getting punched in the chest. And he snuck into Malfoy Manor to get his family's ancient text about soul bonds.
Oh, gross.
Because he was like, this is the only way that you're going to believe me, is if I can show you this book that has the written down history of how this happened. And she's like, I am so furious with you. And he's like, I'm mad at you too for being such a stubborn bookworm that this was the only way that I could get for you to understand what was going on. And he's like, I didn't really leave. Like, I came back. I will always come back. I will always come back to you. Why don't you believe me? And then suddenly they realize that it's just very quiet and they're very close and it's very private. And she has cast a silencing charm because they were arguing. And he just hugs her as she like panics about him being gone. And they immediately, of course, feel that relief through the bond at physical contact. And he realizes that she has gone from clinging to him to starting to undo his shirt. And they're both desperate to touch each other, and the tense moment has lifted, and they have very weird, awkward sex in this concession stand.
They have full-on sex?
They do have sex.
Okay.
They do have sex.
Have they even kissed?
No. But the cord grows brighter and brighter and starts to combine like silver and gold, and expands around them and then cinches even closer. And suddenly like he feels like this very big sense through the bond that like something is happening, but then they stop because he starts to cry. And she's kneeling next to him, and they're both like crying and holding each other because of how intense it was. And he's like, I need you to give me some space. And and she's like, okay, I understand, this is a lot. And when she opens the door, it breaks the silencing charm that she had put on the stand, and they hear screaming from the Quidditch pitch. And oh
my God, I'm so stressed out.
Okay.
What happens next?
Padma is screaming as her sister Pavarti lays dead in front of her.
Oh, shit.
Her injuries were too great, and Hermione immediately feels horrible, horrible guilt that this happened when she was away banging rather than trying to help. And suddenly they are just dealing with the death of a sister. And so they cover her body with a blanket, and they all are just trying to figure out what to do. Hermione suddenly notices that the cord that was connecting them is no longer there. And it's just something that now they both internally feel. Oh. So by like consummating or whatever, they've like kind of halfway solidified the bond, but because neither of them came, like they didn't finish having sex, they kind of just stopped like in the middle of it because Draco started crying. Oof. Like they didn't, because it was like building, and then it just stopped. The bond has not been quote unquote like fully
fulfilled, fully
solidified within both of them.
Okay.
So it's still there, and it's still something that they need to choose to finish. And Draco tells everyone that he snuck away to the manor, that it is now fully like Voldemort dark people headquarters, that it was just crawling with Death Eaters, and that Draco had to kill a house elf while he was there because one of the house elves like sees him, and he's like, you can't say anything, like you have to, like holds his hand over their mouth, and it's like, you have to stay quiet, please don't say anything, and he's like, new master has told me that I need to tell them if any of the old masters come.
Oh shit.
And Draco is like, fuck, and snaps snaps his neck.
Oh, that's so sad.
It's really, really sad. And so Draco and Hermione are both absolutely crippled by horrible, horrible survivor's guilt for the rest of the story for these individual reasons. Yay!
I would cry during sex too if I had to kill an innocent creature.
Yeah.
You know?
Draco went through a lot and then was like fulfilling a soul bond with someone that he still doesn't completely understand, like why they love each other.
Yeah.
And it was just very overwhelming, and he couldn't come.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Listen, if I had a nickel. At least 2.
This is crazy.
And so that late that night, he holds out the book to Hermione and says, "It's widely believed, by my family at least, so do with that what you will, that this was the story collection Beedle the Bard modeled his own after in the 15th century. History and literature, oral and written tradition, they're things my family has cared about and dabbled in for a long time. Please just read it." And so I know I've been talking for a while, but if I may, I would like to read the beginning of this story.
Give it to me.
There was once a grandfather, a father, and a son who lived in a large, lonely estate in the countryside. Though the nearest town was far and the population small, each man had the good fortune of marrying their one true love. In time, the men began to fear for the longevity of their family name in the small rural town they called home, as age and death crept up on the grandfather. However, these men were learned in the magical arts, and so they combined their magical knowledge in an effort to ensure a prestigious legacy for their own. They came upon a forbidden spell that, when combined with their own innovations, would do what no other spell had done before. On a dark night, with only the silver moon and fireflies to light their cauldron, the men performed a blood ritual that would bind a secretive magic with their souls. Each man contributed, as was their disposition. The grandfather, a prideful man, imbued the magic such that it passed through the male line. Each generation would consist of just one son, so as to not dilute the potency of the Malfoy magic. And so it doesn't say Malfoy, but the magic. And so their bloodline became one of solitary sons. When the father, who was a selfish man, decided he wanted this magic only for his own, with secrecy woven into the fabric of the spell, the man cast a blanket of silence upon all future generations, and so only those directly affected by the magic could speak of its nature. And then the son, young and newly in love, used his contribution to guarantee the best for his descendants, just as he had for himself. Thus, bound to their souls in each generation would be another, to both rival and match, a perfect complement to the other. And so their souls would have true mates. Ritual complete, the 3 men continued in their lives, confident in the gifts secured by the obscure, forbidden magic they had indulged in. And then there's a little bit more, but I didn't want to read the whole thing.
Oh my God. Okay.
But that's the tale. So
Yeah.
that was the Malfoy line. The Malfoy
That's the soulmate.
ancestors created this in order to ensure the longevity of their line, and also ensure that their magic would stay powerful and that they would only be bonded to their true love, who is their equal in both personality but also in magical power.
Which makes sense for Hermione Granger.
Yes, it does. I agree. Hermione reads this, but then they don't talk about it at all because they're busy burying Pavarti in the woods and preparing
busy.
to leave.
They're busy.
So
About that.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, you told me. This is sad trauma.
It's bad. It's pretty bad. They realize after the Diagon Alley thing that they need to leave. They've been in this place for about a week. They're like, we need to move to another safe house. They move to a safe house on Privet Drive, where Miss Fig used to live. Oh. They move into Miss Fig's house.
I really resonated with that old woman with the cats.
I loved her. There is a beautiful moment, which I just want to... when they are leaving, Weasley looks embarrassed, reaching up to massage the back of his neck. I didn't mean to set the wards up wrong. There was a lot going on at the time. I know. It's fine. I'm not talking about this again. She cuts him off, and it's absolutely brutal. Draco loves it. They go to the safe house. They're waiting weeks and weeks, and they still aren't talking about it. And then at 4 a.m., she just can't take it anymore. And she goes to the sunroom that Draco has made, like, his little room to talk. And she asks what his parents had told him about the bond. And he says, not really anything apart from it existing. And he's like, my family is very selfish and always has been. And this is a way to ensure that they got the best of everything, which is very Malfoy if you think about it. And he goes, also, did you know that it's my birthday today?
Aww. Let's finish having sex.
Well, she says, what do you want for your birthday? And he's like, for my birthday, I would like to pretend that we aren't us and that the war didn't happen because this was supposed to be a good thing, the best thing that could happen to a Malfoy. And I'm so angry that we couldn't experience it in that way and that we have to experience it like this.
Well, shit.
And she's like, well, if it was that, if we were pretending, what would you be doing for your birthday? For your 18th birthday, I think is what she says, if you had a choice. And he's like, well, I would have expected my friends to throw a huge rager in the Slytherin common room. And Goyle was like really good at sneaking in booze. So there would just like be a lot of booze and like it would be dark and there would be music. And maybe my soulmate would show up. And maybe we would have like danced. And he like grabs her hand and they like start to sway. And she like turns on like the gramophone, so it's like old timey music, and so they're dancing face to face. But then it kind of like switches into something a little sultrier, and he's like, "But actually,
okay, Mrs. Fig."
And he's like, it would actually be like this, and he turns her so that her back is to his front.
So they're grinding.
They're grinding because he's like, it's a Slytherin party for my birthday. Remember, it's really dark, and the music we have right now might not set the mood, but it's dark and it's loud and it's crowded because everyone wants to be here at my birthday party. So we're in the middle of it and you're pressed up against me like this. And they just like start to kind of like grind and touch each other very softly. And he's like, and he's still kind of talking about the bond. And he's like, just so you know, like, this doesn't make us do anything. You still have complete control and like choice over what to do. It's just meant to show us. It's just meant to show us like what we can be to each other. It wants us to be near each other and it's happy when we are, but it's up to us what we do with this. And he's like, in order to fully solidify the bond, you probably felt it, but like we both need to have sex.
We both need to come.
We both need to come. And he's like, and he starts to, they're still like doing the thing. He's like, and I'm really sorry that last time it wasn't that good. And it wasn't my best. And I would love it if you would like show me how to do it for next time. And so he has her lay on the couch and touch herself and tell him like what she likes as she goes, which I personally love.
That's 100% not a yuck, but a yum on my list.
Mm-hmm. I think it's lovely. Every time there's a scene like that I read, I'm like, beautiful, great, please.
Chef's kiss.
And he encourages her and tells her she's perfect and beautiful and doing such a good job. And then she comes and then she says, well, that's not fair. I want to learn too.
100 points to Slytherin.
Yes. And so then he does the same thing and he teaches her while she then touches herself and like has a second orgasm.
100 points to Slytherin.
100 points to Slytherin.
100 points to Slytherin.
Yeah. They like take a minute to catch their breath. He like cleans them both up. They're both very quiet and it just feels very like they've crossed kind of a threshold, like they've reached a new level in their relationship. And she's like, listen, I don't know yet if I believe in this or what I really believe, but this was really... And then the door explodes open. Oh, no. And Ron is yelling and is... and there's cracks and booms around and flashes of color, and Draco doesn't do anything. He doesn't react except for first puts a blanket around Hermione's shoulders because she's still not really wearing any clothes. So he puts like a woven blanket over her and is like, Weasley, what are you doing? And Ron's like, what have you been doing in here? We couldn't find you, and the door was locked and it was silenced, and now this is happening. And he makes a gesture to the window, and there's like all this colored light flashing. Oh my God.
They're in the sunroom.
They're in a sunroom, and pamphlets start floating down from the sky. And it says, the war is over. Peace and rebuilding begin when those refusing to cease hostilities surrender to us. The war is over. And then it's also pictures of it's pictures of Hermione and Ron and Draco with a bounty listed.
Oh, shit.
And so the Dark Lord has sent out a message and dropped these presumably everywhere to get the word out. Yes. And Ron says, this room was locked in silence, Hermione. We thought he'd taken you or hurt you, or you really don't want to know what I was doing to her in here, Weasley.
Oh boy.
Oh boy, oh boy,
I had
oh
a
boy.
white flag at one moment. I was just
Fanning,
like, I can't.
fanning myself
I
at
know.
Malfoy's one-liners.
We're getting there. We're nearly there. I promise. But there's hope because right when these flyers fall, they get a Patronus, and it's Kingsley.
Oh, he's alive. Why didn't
alive.
he answer her order?
He didn't answer her otter. He didn't answer Ron's squirrel.
Jack Russell
Terrier.
That makes sense.
But Kingsley sends them. They get a Patronus from Kingsley saying like, "Okay, we're in. We're figuring out a way to sneak into France. Meet us here so that we can execute the plan
together.
So they can all sneak together because basically, like the ministry has been taken over by the Death Eaters.
Gotcha.
The borders are closed. They
Time
need.
to go to their safe place.
They're
in
trying to
France.
get out of the country.
Gotcha.
Because it's been taken over
Yeah.
by Voldemort. They all start to pack to meet Kingsley immediately. Hermione is running around the whole house, really worried that she missed something. Draco's like, "You didn't miss anything." She's like, I think I might have forgotten something. He's like, "You didn't miss anything. You're fine." And she's like, "Stop being a decent person." And he's like, "I'm not a decent person." And she's like, "I'm really, really worried about this." And he wets a towel with cold water and puts it on the back of her neck and is like, "Listen, if something happens, I'll just burn the whole village to the ground and come and find you. It's going to be fine." So hot.
Sexy.
Does that count for competency, King?
Yes,
I think
someone's saying they'd burn a village for you.
Yes, very
Ooh,
competent.
I should talk about
Very
this in
demure.
therapy. Very demurtsy.
Yes. Hermione's POV, Neville goes first because they're like, "Okay, we want to make sure that this isn't a trap." Neville volunteers. So Neville,
Man,
I love Neville.
I do love Neville.
I love him. He goes first to find Kingsley. They wait a few minutes, just like on pins and needles, and his toad Patronus comes back and says like, "All clear." And then as soon as they land in Hogsmeade, it is immediate chaos. The caterwauling charm is screaming that they're there. Hermione sees Neville and Kingsley kneeling next to each other on the street, clearly both imperious. And she starts to just run. She just immediately books it towards the trees. Spells are rushing towards her. She just keeps running and running. And her mind is flashing back. She's at Hogwarts. She's in Malfoy Manor. She's just like flashing back to she's in the ministry. All of the horrible, horrible traumas. And she just can't stop running. She keeps going. Draco, we jump into his POV. He's panicking because he can't find her. He landed. He's experiencing the same chaos. She's already fucking gone. And Justin finds him and is like, "Yeah, we need to find Hermione." And then he gets hit in the back with a spell. Draco picks him up and starts to move with him. Draco gets hit. Ron and Justin pick him up. They keep running. They see Hermione across the street and she grabs Draco's hand. And just as all four of them turn to do sidelong apparition, I think it's Ron that's moving them. They get back to the safe house and he's not holding Hermione's hand anymore. There's just the tips of 3 red painted fingers on the floor.
She splinched.
She splinched. So she stayed behind. They did not get her out. Ron and Justin and Draco are absolutely panicking. They're like, "We have to go back for Hermione." And then there are more cracks and sounds and the Death Eaters have found them again. And suddenly Draco is looking into Dobby's wide eyes. Dobby grabs him by the shoulder and takes Draco away.
Oh my god.
I'm going to pause for reaction before we get into the end of the fic.
So mad at you right now.
Oh, my
Also,
I told you would like
for
this.
people who might not know, splinching is when you apparate, but your whole body goes, so a part of you splinches off or like comes off. So 3
Yeah,
of them.
'cause-
I don't know if some people do like
no.
Harry Potter, but don't know things like that. So
Yeah, because the lore is that apparition is supposed to be this very kind of hard thing to do that takes a lot of concentration. And if you're not like if your mind is not fully engaged, then you might leave a body part behind or not do it properly, in which case something might get left or you just might get left. And if you're doing it for multiple people, the risk of that goes up. So Hermione lost the tips of 3 red painted fingers, which if you'll remember, that was the color of the nail polish that he stole for her.
Okay, so here's oh my god. Okay.
I am unwell.
Can you just tell me the end? I'm so mad at you.
Yeah, I'm unwell.
Do we want any reactions before I get
Also,
into the end?
wait, can I just say we were like fuck yes Neville for going first,
Yeah.
and it just reminded me like sidebar, Bloody, Slutty, and Pathetic is a Hermione fan fiction.
Yes.
Which
I still have not read because I got sidetracked by this.
It is Mafia-esque. It is not though, but I have never said these words until I read this fic. Neville can be fucking hot.
Neville can get it.
I love a Neville fic.
No, it's Neville. I was like, I've never read a Neville like this before, and I was very attracted.
Have
to
you
him.
read a Neville Pansy?
I've read them as side characters, never
Okay.
the mains.
They're
So
fun.
I
There's
always
some
like
stories
them.
about them.
I
It's
like them
fun.
as a pair. Anyways, Bloody, Slutty, Pathetic. Please read.
I got it.
Write it down.
Yes.
Write it down.
Andrea, any reactions or thoughts or questions before I get into the back half of this story?
Oh my God.
We've been reacting. People can't see it, obviously, but we have been reacting this whole time, just like fanning ourselves, like gasping, clutching our pearls.
First off, I love a blonde male,
I know.
main male character. I love it. I love it. They never are the character. They never get their due. But Draco Malfoy, oh my God.
Yeah.
And then, the string. Another glass of wine, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
You gotta get closer to your mic.
Amazing. I can't get closer to my mic. I'm afraid. I'm afraid of the mic.
Please tell us the end.
Okay.
I
Yes,
wanna know.
I need to know.
Stop
Okay.
being suspenseful.
So now, and you'll actually, I was texting you yesterday when I was going through this, and I told you like there were a couple chapters that were very quick. That's what we're getting into now. So each of these chapters is a different character's POV.
Oh.
George wakes up in a dungeon with Neville, Kingsley, Hermione, and Padma Patel, and some strangers that he doesn't recognize. It absolutely reeks of death. They can barely see anything. Hermione says, I know this dungeon. We are in Malfoy Manor. She thinks that her hand is infected because it's really, really hot and burning, and she knows that the tips of her fingers are gone, but she can't see. It's so dark.
That's why I can't get
that's
close to
when
the
that's
mic.
when you can go away from the mic. No, you're fine. You're fine.
George is really, really concerned, finds Padma in the dark and holds her, and they just hold each other. And he's just thinking about how he wishes that he could keep her safe and that they could have had more time. Aww. And we like learn for the first time from his POV that they've been like slowly getting to know each other on the run and really care about each other. I know.
Fuck you.
I know.
This is the end of every chapter.
We flip into Narcissa's POV. She's very upset that their safe house doesn't even have a solarium for morning tea. They're in a tiny home in the countryside.
That's so French.
She's so happy that her son has been returned to her.
Oh.
He won't speak. He won't eat. She reassures him over and over again that the plan was that Dobby bring Hermione too, but they didn't realize at the time that they had already been separated. And so she had just asked Dobby to get them out to repay the debt of life because Malfoy took the knife for him. Malfoy saved Dobby. And so Dobby was repaying a debt and just saw Draco there, didn't see Hermione, grabbed Draco, got him out. And Narcissa is thinking, she's like, I know that they're bonded. I know that my son will not leave his soulmate. Like, because the plan originally was that we're gonna get out. We're gonna sneak over the border. Like the family's gonna get out. But she's now dealing with the fact that like her son is not going to leave, and she knows that. And she basically fills him in and is like, the world has kind of just kept turning. Like people are just treating it like there's been a regime change. There's like people are treating it like there was an election and there's a new prime minister.
Oh,
like
boy.
There's still a ministry. Like for the everyday person, nothing has changed. Like you guys think that you're this fighting force and you're not. The world has moved on.
It's so sad.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Devastating.
Realistic as well.
Yeah.
Justin's POV. Justin is on the run with Ron. He is miserable.
Good, they got out.
They got out. He's miserable. He's drinking way too much. They're hiding in this tiny little muggle town, trying to decide what to do. They decide that they need to get close enough to Malfoy Manor to observe it because they remember that Draco was like, that's now Death Eater HQ.
Yeah.
And so Ron is like, okay, I know that we need to kill the snake. That's what we failed to do. I bet the snake's there. I bet Voldemort's there. So they start to stake out Malfoy Manor.
Oh, come on, Ron.
I mean, he's a Gryffindor. He could be capable.
Huge, massive trigger warning for this next chapter. Violence, torture, death. Neville, POV.
No.
Oh, no. Jess, we're friends.
No.
They keep Neville under the Imperius for weeks.
Oh, God, that's so sad.
So he's super, super disoriented. They don't lift it until he's outside of the manor in the garden being tortured. He has barely moved for days, and suddenly, all of a sudden, he's back online, and every single nerve is screaming in pain. The Dark Lord had told the Death Eaters to make an example of him for the other rebels, to teach them a lesson. And he kind of just fades slowly. They ask him who he is. He says Neville Longbottom. They think his last name is very, very funny. So they levitate him up. He feels himself be levitated. He's like, can't really even see. He's in so much pain. Feels himself be levitated. Here's a sticking charm. They drop him straight down onto the Sword of Gryffindor, which is standing straight up in the air. So he's completely impaled from his bottom up to the top of his head.
Oh, that's really upsetting.
Yes.
Ew.
He dies, obviously. Voldemort is there, watches the whole thing, sends his snake over for a snack, but they haven't removed the sword. They don't realize the sword has been imbued with basilisk venom from book 2, and they don't realize that even being nicked a little bit by the sword will kill the snake, and the snake dies.
Good.
So
Neville still does
kill Nagini.
Neville does kill the snake.
He fulfilled his prophecy.
It just comes in a much worse way.
That's so sad.
Is that like a whole chapter?
That's a whole chapter.
That's a whole chapter of our lives.
All right, next chapter.
Yeah.
So sad. Okay, but Nagini's dead.
Nagini's dead.
Yay.
The snake is dead.
Okay, so what is that? What happens? Okay.
Next chapter. Ron POV. They have those galleons that Hermione charmed in 5th year so they could communicate. The galleon in his hand burns and says here. So Justin has made it to the grounds of the manor. And then he gets bad coming back. Justin apparates back, hits the ground on all fours, heaving, sobbing, and tells him about Neville. And he left right before the snake started coming for Ron. He was like, I just couldn't, or for Neville. He's like, I just couldn't watch it. It was already bad enough what I saw, and I just had to go. But he does confirm, like, and really Ron is like very, very, very upset and very, very angry. But the main thing that he hears is, okay, the snake is there, Voldemort is there, we're right. So we're gonna get over there. Padma POV. She gets pulled out of the dungeon, and minutes after, she's at the ministry on trial in front of the Wizengamot. The first thing she notices is how clean they are and how disgusting she feels. Voldemort is sitting at the head of the court, and she barely hears them say that she's to be sent back to India per her parents, who have fled there and have pled on behalf of her life.
Whoa.
She can never come back to Great Britain again.
Whoa.
She will never see George again.
Aww.
She's devastated. And she realizes that they're going to start putting the rebels on trial to make an example of them. Draco's POV. Days after the ministry announced the execution of Neville, the trials begin, and Draco cannot stop keeping up with them. He gets the prophet every single day. Padma is first. George's sentence is unnecessarily cruel. He gets the Dementor's kiss and life in Azkaban.
Oh my god!
What is happening?
The kids have a happy ending. Why are you telling the story?
I am having an anxiety
I love
attack.
George so much. I love the Weasley twins. I'm very upset.
I'm sorry.
What is happening?
I'm sorry.
Okay, but before that happens, he gets saved.
I'm sorry.
No.
Narcissa is still trying to convince her son to run with them. And she's like, there's no hope for Hermione. You're going to doom, like, without dooming yourself. And Draco's like, you and Dad should go. I would like to know that you're safe, but I can't leave. I promised her that I wouldn't. She's my soulmate. I can't go.
Hot.
And he's like, for the first time in this war of being dragged around by other people's decisions, I finally have a choice. I finally can decide to do something. And this is what I'm deciding to do, Mom. You need to just come to terms with it. And Narcissa just nods and goes, I've learned that Hermione is going to be tried as a traitor in 2 days. I will help you get a wand. So,
Mom to the rescue.
I love her.
Moms are the
I love
best.
her. She's the best.
This is devoted to moms.
So she helps get him a wand, and Malfoy has Dobby sneak him into the manor the next day. And basically the orders are, get me as close as you can to the dungeons, knowing that he's probably not going to be able to get all the way there. When Draco arrives in Malfoy Manor, a golden light practically blinds him. The rope has come back because they've been away from each other for so long. And it's like, hey, remember me?
Thank God. So that means she knows he's there.
Yes. Hermione, we kind of flash back a little bit in Hermione's POV. When Neville and Padma fail to come back, that's when she really truly starts to lose hope. And she becomes basically feral. She starts to attack any guard that comes to bring them food. She starts to fight anybody that shows up. They realize that she's done this, and so they put her in her own tiny little cell. They switch up. There's not a schedule or anything. She also knows that her hand is infected because it's in terrible, horrible pain.
Shit.
And it's hot and she's feverish and she almost dies, but they revive her enough and heal it enough and like contain it enough that she won't die, but she's still in horrible pain because they don't heal it all the way. She's beating herself up thinking about how she should have studied wandless magic more when a bright silver light bursts from her chest and the rope reforms, and she starts to just immediately sob, and she stands to follow the rope and the door swings open, and she realizes that it's a guard, and so her first instinct is she just lunges at them and like tackles them basically, and only then realizes that this person has like that blank look and they've clearly been imperious. And she looks up and Draco is standing behind him covered head to toe in blood.
Amazing. Oh, this is giving Manacle. This is giving he raises the field. Oh my god, I am so turned on.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
I need to talk about this in therapy. Go on, Jessica.
And Draco says, take his wand, and then sees her face and goes, it's not mine, it's okay. And and she's like, are you real? And he goes, yes, I'm real. We have to go. And he like explains as they move that when Dobby brought him in, they ran into Fenrir Greyback. And
most evil.
And Greyback took Dobby down.
Oh no.
Well, he had to go.
Yeah.
It was a canon event.
It was a canon event.
But
And then
George wasn't.
No. Some of the stuff was not canon.
some of it was not. And then Hermione and then Draco took down Greyback.
Thank
and
God.
Hermione's like, you took on Greyback? And Draco goes, don't sound so impressed. And Hermione goes, I am impressed. And Draco,
am I.
I know. And Draco goes, without Dobby to help us, we need to reach the edge of the wards in order to disapparate. So we need to get to the edge of the property. And Hermione is like, okay, and is forcing. She's so disoriented. She's so sick. She's doing her best, but she's not on steady feet. And I just love this quote, so I'm going to read it. Hope has taken on a lot of forms over the last year, worn many masks, and manifested in many surprising and unusual ways. Here, now, it's a silver light in the darkness and the prospect of not being quite so alone. So they get outside onto the grounds. Alarms are going off like crazy. Death Eaters are popping in because obviously, like,
It's home base.
shit's going down. She stops at the front of the property and goes, Draco, we need to burn it down. It'll hurt them. It'll take out their home base. We need to burn it down.
The library.
Oh, God.
Oh, that's so
God.
painful.
So he casts Fendi Fire to burn down his childhood home.
But wait, aren't there like still other prisoners in there?
No.
She was the last one.
Well, as far as she knows, because they isolated her in her own cell.
Okay.
But they make the decision to get rid of it.
Gotcha.
Yep, to get rid of the home base. They
Sacrifices were made.
sacrifices
For
have
the
been
greater
made.
good.
For the greater good.
The greater good.
They're booking it. Voldemort appears on the battlefield.
Whoa.
Followers are on the grounds. They also see Ron and Justin appear on the edge of the property. Draco sees Voldemort cast a killing curse at them, pushes Hermione out of the way, and while they're doing that, she's super weak, so she trips and falls. Oh. And she's on the ground. Draco covers her with his body, and she realizes, like, we're gonna die here. Like, there's no way we're gonna get back up in time. He's gonna cast another killing curse right now. And the last thing she thinks about is how Draco had realized that they were going to die and is just deciding to hold her one last time and protect her with his body as much as he can.
Jesus.
If they die, I'm gonna be so mad at you.
Oh my God.
And she feels like her chest is cracked open and she holds onto him with everything she has and waits to die, and then it all goes black. She wakes up thinking she must be dead. Two fingers pushing a potion to her lips and then water. When she does fully wake, she looks down at her skin and it looks like there are bolts of lightning, like light, shooting across her whole body.
Ooh.
Draco in the doorway says, no one else can see it, only we can see it. They're at his family's property in France after weeks of recovery in St. Mungo's. And she's like, what happened? And he says, did you know that when I disarmed Dumbledore that night on the astronomy tower, I became the owner of the Elder Wand?
Okay. Cannon's coming back in.
And did you know when Ron Weasley punched me in the face and stole my wand when we arrived at the cottage, that he then became the rightful master of the Elder Wand?
So Ron Weasley, savior of us all.
And did you know that even when he finally handed it back to me, the loyalty was still to him because it wasn't taken by force? And did you know that when he entered the property with Justin and saw the fire and saw you on the ground and saw Voldemort casting a killing curse at us, that Voldemort's wand failed as Ron, without thinking, cast a killing curse of his own?
This is a Ron redemption story.
Damn it! I did not want this, but I'll take it. But how dare you? You know this is a Ron redemption.
Look at that Uno reverse card.
That was the most of Uno reverse cards you could have ever thrown down. Fuck! God darn it! Damn it! Thanks, Ron. Ugh.
And Hermione goes, but how do we live? Like, you saw Ron saw Voldemort cast a killing curse at us. Like, we should be dead. And Draco goes, well, my family's magic is fueled by centuries of love.
Well, so, and then she loved
This
him, and then they
thing
saved each
about
other.
love being
A protective spell,
Such a lovely protective
just like Harry. Just like what Harry's mom did
Remember
for
when
him.
he died in the beginning of this?
Yes.
Don't remind me.
Sorry.
Okay. Wow.
And yeah. So that's that. That's the explanation. So they have
I thought you were
survived.
gonna say that's the end. I was like, no.
No. We haven't that long. We haven't that long.
No.
In the following
Just
days,
arguing that that's not the end.
that's not the end. In the following days, she is deeply guilty for surviving and upset. And Draco gives her space, but also sits quietly next to her on the balcony drinking tea until she needs him and calls for him. And at night, when he has nightmares, she goes to him and helps him through it. But for him, she thinks about how she had made a comment of like, how are you so okay? Like all the time. And he had been like, well, nothing's ever been my choice. So I feel like I'm just okay. But they realize now that the war is over, it's all coming back. So he just keeps having horrible, horrible nightmares night after night after night. And she's there to comfort him. And they're basically in this little house in the countryside in France together, recovering. The world starts to go back to normal because Voldemort has been killed. His ministry falls. There's not really a lot of details about what happens after, but that doesn't matter.
We're not here for the politics.
Yeah.
We're here for the love.
So then we get, in July, they have tea every evening outside in the garden. In the end, he is pardoned by the ministry because, as far as they know, he never committed any murders. He was still underage when the war began.
Nice.
And the war heroes, Ron Weasley, Justin, and Hermione, all vouch for him.
Nice.
Despite always going to bed separately and having separate rooms, Hermione almost always ends up in his bed with him at night to help him through his nightmares.
Cute.
Very cat
Like
PETA.
Very much. Very much. In August, the lightning on their skin starts to dim and eventually fades away. In September, she tells him that it was her birthday 2 days after her birthday has already happened. And that evening, he leads her to his room and they read side by side in bed and never go to bed separately after that.
I thought there was going to be like a lap dance or something.
No, they just read.
And
They just
she-
read in bed together.
That's cute.
That's Hermione's version of a
That's
lap
very lovely.
dance. In October, they decide to visit the nearest town. And then when they return, she hugs him and thanks him. And she says she's tired of pretending that it doesn't feel right to just be there with him and that it doesn't feel peaceful and comfortable and good. And she says, is this what it feels like to have peace? Do you think we could actually do this forever? And he says, if that's what you want, and if you wanted to go back and reform the ministry, I have a lot of money that could help with that too. And if you want to study, then I can follow you to wherever you want to study. You know, I'm by your side as long as you want me. And she says, you'd said one time that we have to choose the bond. And he says, yes. And she says, well, I think I am going to choose you now. And for the first time ever, they kiss.
Oh, fucking finally.
And it is slow and sweet. And he realizes that he wants to do it again and again, forever and ever. And then they bang.
Yay! Bang, bang. Bangity bang. I said a bang, bang, bangity bang.
And he warns her beforehand. He's like, this might solidify the bond. And she says, I know. And he almost cries. And then he says, well, I did receive a very good lesson once, and I would like to put it to practice.
Yes.
If you don't mind. And proceeds to finger her and eat her out like a champ.
Like a bluish gray alien.
And when they're laying in bed after the bond bursts out of their chest in silver and gold light, in the aftermath, they're laying next to each other, and Draco realizes for the first time in years that he feels truly happy. And quote, in all this time, theirs has never been a romance, but maybe, given a choice, it could be. And that's the end.
I'm dead.
I feel really tired now. Oh my! That was a lot of emotions and just
what
like
a roller coaster.
That was really good.
Thank
you know I love a Hermione, and like now it definitely is solidified. I'm really glad I didn't continue reading it because this was more fun for me, but that was so stressful.
Yes, I understand why you're stressed.
Yeah, what Voldemort wins AUs are hard for
They're
me to
always
read.
intense.
They're so I don't mind the angst and I don't mind that, but like it's like a friend dying. I'm like, I don't want to live that right now. That's not the angst I want. That's not the trauma I want.
And I do love this one because it does not pull any punches. It is like, nope, this is what we are getting into.
It was giving some Manicold. It was,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yes, Andrea, thoughts?
Oh my God. Wow. I've been through so much right now. I feel like I need a therapy session. Wow. What a way to discuss soulmates.
Yeah, seriously.
And the way that even though they don't want it, something calls to each other. And magic is such a good route for that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That hullabaloo, if you will, for somebody who's not minus pro soulmate. But if you will, like, what a wonderful way of looking at it, and what a wonderful story. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome.
Thank you so much. That was so, oh my gosh.
I'm so glad I found it and that I could tell it to you because
And
as
you
soon as
did
I
this in
found
a
it,
day?
I did it genuinely. I found it Monday morning and worked on it all day yesterday.
We go fucking hard for this podcast.
Oh my God.
It helped that I had read it before. Like I found it and I went, oh shit, I forgot that this was about
I'm glad we
soulmates.
both did ones that we read before.
And I was like, oh, like as soon as I started reading it again, I was like, oh, I have to.
There's a soundbite on TikTok that's just like, yes, I'm a scholar. I read a whole book in a day. Yes, it was alien porn. What about it? And as you guys are telling me that you've read these things in like a day or in a week, all I can think is like, yeah, I read a lot, but like, I don't think I have the dedication to find something that like speaks in the volumes that you guys have done today.
Oh, thank you.
Like really, truly. And I mean that for both of your
two very different vibes.
very different.
But it's so important to have those two different aspects because that's the problem with talking about tropes at the same time is because people want to dumb down books and treat it like, well, this trope, I enjoy this trope, I don't enjoy this trope. And yeah, I have a lot of haterade for soulmates. It's just not my jam. But when it's done,
but I think you enjoyed those.
I was kicking my feet at both of them. I mean, what a joy to find soulmates, something that I don't enjoy, and see it done in a fun, simple way that you can just kind of lose yourself for a moment instead of feeling like, all right, gotta trudge through this and feel all my feelings. And then on the other end of the spectrum, feel every single emotion, have no breaks, 100% go. But like, what a beautiful route you guys took. Oh my God, this episode's so amazing.
I love when we go like, one of us is like, this is so dumb, and one of us is like, this has so many feelings. Like I feel like I
always bring the feelings. I'm always bringing
feelings.
You bring the feelings too, but I feel like I always am like, all right, here's the angstiest shit you ever heard.
It is easy for me to find some dumb shit. Although Season Pass to This Ass was like silly, dumb fun. I love that one too.
Yeah.
Do you have a game for us or no?
Oh, I do, but I just talked for an hour and a half, so I'm cool to move forward with the episode.
All right, so out of 5 raccoons and trash cans, what would you rate each of our stories?
Well, I you know what? I feel like those raccoons are different types of raccoons. Like
they are.
one of them is fat and happy and living in the back of Bob's Burgers and is like, I just want something silly and something that's going to fill me up real quick. And
that's the fan fiction one.
Yeah, and the other one is living in like the redwoods, you know, being like, I'm a hunter. Yes.
I must survive.
But if I had to give, I mean, Emily, you got 4 raccoons. And
I'll take it.
Jez, you also got 4 raccoons.
Yay!
I can't.
Yay!
It's so beautiful. I can't. This episode's too wonderful.
Good.
You guys really did rise to this occasion. I didn't expect this at all.
I'm proud of us.
Yeah.
High five.
I can't believe it. Because here's the thing. When you said Planned Barbarians, I was like, oh, I've read that. I didn't really, I can't remember enjoying it, except for that I remember reading 22 books.
You know what? I think it might be more fun to tell it and hear it than read it. No, I'm not saying it's a bad book to read. It is silly, it's fun, it's ridiculous. But telling it was so much more fun than reading it.
You know what? It scratches an itch, doesn't it? To have something that's short, sweet, and to the point, doesn't have a lot.
Has
a lot
weird
of
sex
suspended,
scenes.
a lot of suspended disbelief, right? And here we've got something that feels so real, so raw, and it's magic based.
I was going to say so real magic.
About an imaginary war.
We also have so much, we have so many feelings tied to that, that whole universe, though.
Yeah.
Oh my
because we have
gosh.
read so much fan fiction that has created an even bigger, heart for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing of when I was doing notes, where I had to really stop myself and try to fill things. Like, I had to be like, okay, what actually is stuff that I should write down? Because so much of, I've read so much of this type of work that there's a lot of shorthand for me that I was like, oh, I should write that down. That's actually important. Like, they might not know this or whatever.
Yeah.
Or I went back and forth for a minute about, do I really want to read the whole first section of that Beetle the Bard legend? And I was like, no, the style is so good. Like, the author nailed it.
That's
I
great
think.
too, because you like it and you're like, I want to share this with my friends. And that's why we fucking made this podcast. It's just, I'm really glad you did.
Thanks.
And I thought that was so good. And I think you really summarized that well.
Thanks.
And it was not that was not too long or anything.
Oh,
I think that was fine.
You both summarized perfectly. Really, truly.
Thank you.
And like I said, I've read all 22. You can look at my Audible. I'm
so sorry for you.
You know what? It's because
It's the same story.
It is. Well, some of she chooses different tropes.
Yeah.
Which I like that. But again, it's somebody who's using the tropes to just kind of write a lot. You know?
Yeah.
But it's just a way to escape. And isn't that what we love about fantasy and about books and romance? Is that this is an escape.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we're looking for something to rip our hearts out, and sometimes we're looking for something that helps us get off. You know, you know.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a mixture of the two, because our brains and our hearts and our bodies are all combined, and we didn't ask for this.
We need both. We
didn't ask for this. Was there something from this episode or something on your list of tropes that you would like to discuss, to research, to hear about in the next episode?
What do you want next episode? After this journey.
Yeah. What a fucking journey we've been on.
Well, actually, yes. I recently had to read something for my little book club, and it was pirate based, and I've discovered that with that one book this may not be a trope for me.
Okay.
Also, I did not like the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. I know.
Oh no.
Wow.
Oh no.
What have I
Oh
done?
no. Oh no.
What have I done? I got so many glares.
Famously, someone on this podcast loves Pirates of the Caribbean fanfic.
Yeah.
I won't tell you who it is.
Is this the person who's glaring at me right now?
It is the person who's clearing.
Listen, I don't necessarily love it now, but it was foundational in my teenage years.
Sell it to me, Mo.
Okay.
Sell it to me.
All right.
Oh my god. Okay, yeah, we've never done pirates.
Can I ask real quick, not to get ahead of ourselves, but what is it about the pirate trope that you don't connect with?
Okay, so I feel like what I don't like about pirates is that you are stuck within a genre, and you are trying to force other romantic genre tropes into this genre.
Okay, you feel like it's a hat on a hat.
Yes.
Got it.
Definitely hat on a hat.
Okay. I think we can find something.
Yeah, we can figure it out.
All
right. Yeah.
I love that. Pirates.
The wheels are already turning.
I can't believe this hasn't come up.
I know.
That's
you know what? That's weird because there's a lot of random things that have not come up yet, but I feel like we've done so much already.
Yeah.
We're in our 4th season.
Okay.
And this is going to be episode 3.
It's gonna be hard to beat what I just did. I'm telling you.
Oh,
I can't wait for our review or our finale episode.
Oh my god.
when we do this. Oh, that'll be good. Just a reminder, if you haven't, go back and listen to all of our episodes everywhere. We're also on YouTube if you don't have any like subscriber things. And we have a merch store on Etsy. Go and look at our merch store because we would love that to happen.
Yeah.
So join us next time
For pirates.
And in the meantime, we're just 2 raccoons
Talking about the
best
trash in town. Bye. Femmes Reading Filth is hosted, produced, and edited by Emily Barusian and Jessica Mall. Intro music by Tom Lehrer. Outro music by David Reddick. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Femmes Reading Filth. Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Bye.